Welcome in to another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Max Chadwick alongside Dalton Wasserman right now, previewing and predicting the 12 biggest games in college football for Week 8. Dalton, we did a record 13 games last week. We thought we'd take a little bit of a breather this week, like maybe 8 or 9 games. Now we're doing a dozen games once again this week, man. A loaded Week 8 slate of college football, and both you and I were talking about it today. This might have been, I think, the hardest slate of games all year to predict.
Honestly, out of the 12 games here, I only feel good about like 2 of my picks. I really do. You got a lot of teams that I think a lot of these games, I should say, are very, very even. It shows in some of the spreads we're going to have. I think you've got good teams that are going into tough road environments, some coming off big wins, others trying to bounce back up off the mat from big losses. So I think when you look at this week and even especially some of the games in the playoff implications that they could have moving forward, we've got another unbelievable slate here this weekend.
We have 5 games between ranked teams this weekend. I think that might be the most all year. I think maybe week 1 might have beaten that out. But yeah, 5 games between ranked teams, a ton of massive matchups this weekend. I want to remind you guys, every stat we talk about today here on the show is available with a PFF Plus subscription at subscribe.pff.com. And if you use the promo code PFFCFB25, you get that subscription for 25% off right now. So you get all the same data and analytics that every single one of the 136 FBS teams use and every single one of the 32 NFL teams use, and also access to all the best fantasy football tools and the best betting tools on the planet as well that can maybe help you out with our upset pick of the week segment at the very end of the show. We're going to try to hit that No Sunday Show parlay this week so we can make a ton of money. So start thinking of what our upset picks are going to be for this week. So again, PFF CFB 25 to get 25% off your PFF Plus subscription right there. Yeah, please feed me and Dalton right now, Eli's kids. Absolutely. All right, Dalton, you have a 4-game lead on me because you went 11-2 last week in our 13-game preview. I went 9-4. Last week's year, 51-25 on the year. I am 47-29 on the year. So I'm going to try to make up some ground here this week.
And there's a lot of games here where we differ. I think these were some of the hardest games to pick. So that you could make up that ground, or if things continue the way they've been the last couple weeks, maybe I just widen the gap even further. But I feel good about 2 out of 3 for the season. Remember we got off to a slow start the first couple weeks, it felt like, but we've gotten hot here lately in the middle of the season as we've learned more about these teams. So I'm excited for it. This is a big slate.
Absolutely. We're already getting some love in the chat right now from a lot of fans. A lot of fans are actually throwing in their upset picks already, Dalton.
Oh, wow. Don't lose track of them. Yep. What are we going to have, 15 legs in this thing
we're
this
having
week?
A lot.
What are we doing
I'm
here?
going to have to start throwing them in right now, actually.
Every upset in the country? Oh, boy.
Someone said thoughts on Utah BYU. We'll be getting to that later on in the show. Actually, the last game of our preview. So stick around.
Late night fun. hang around, see the other 11, or just We've also got the one off. That's why we cut these 2. So either way, we're going to get there. Don't you worry. We got a long one.
Let's start off with the Friday night game that we're previewing. That is Louisville at number 2 Miami. Again, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. Storylines to know is this is one of Miami's most difficult games remaining in the regular season. Miami's looked like one of the best teams in the country so far this year. They have a perfect 5-0 record, impressive wins over teams like Notre Dame, USF, Florida State, and Florida. Louisville, though, is one of the best teams remaining on Miami's schedule. You could argue them or SMU for the best team remaining on Miami's schedule. Cardinals are not ranked right now, but they do have a 4-1 record this year. Their only loss is an overtime loss to number 18 Virginia right now, too. And right now, Louisville is a top 25 team in PFF's power ranking. So if Miami is not going to go 12-0 this year, Louisville's probably one of those likely candidates to pull off an upset, but we'll see if they do, Dalton.
Yeah, no, on a Friday night on the road in Miami with Miami off a bye week, obviously, if they're going to be well-rested and ready for this stretch run, because at this point, what we've seen from the Hurricanes, overall, you have a pretty decent-sized expectation that they could go undefeated for the regular season and possibly through the ACC title game. They've looked like clearly the best team in the ACC. They've looked like one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the country so far. They're very well-rounded. Their defense is even better than it was last year. Carson Beck has done a great job, but Louisville's got a lot of threats on their team. You talk about a receiver pair and Chris Bell and Colin Lacey that's really good. Isaac Brown in the backfield can hit a home run any play, and they've got a solid defense too. So I think there are going to be some matchups here that Miami's going to have to watch out for, even as the home favorite. But no, you're right. If they get through this one, you start to feel even better about their chances of finishing this regular season undefeated.
Definitely. So you have the Louisville offense. Both you and I will be talking about the trenches in this game, because that will be a huge matchup on both sides of the ball. But what should we know about Louisville's offense against Miami's defense?
And that's where it always starts with Miami, right? As you talk about in the trenches, how dominant they've been on the offensive and defensive line. You're going to talk about the offensive side of it. But I think when you talk about this Louisville offensive line and the way they've struggled early in the season, and this was a concern coming into the year, losing so many starters, having a lot of new guys rotate in there, hasn't really worked out so well so far for Louisville. They're 105th in the country in pass blocking grade. They are 117th in run blocking grade. Miller Moss in this offense, they're really trying to work around a blocking unit that has been struggling, but when Miller Moss is under pressure, just a 35 passing grade, very, very low mark when it comes to that category. So I think, and you saw that in the Virginia game in the second half when they lost, Virginia turned up the heat in the second half. The offensive line didn't have an answer, and honestly, even if you're going to help out with chip protections and things like that, Louisville's backs have really struggled to help in pass protection. They're kind of undersized. They're not the most aggressive guys in pass protection, so they're really going to have to play up to task here when it comes to Ruben Bain, the highest graded defender in the country. Akeem Mesidor is the 10th highest graded edge defender in the country. This Miami team, this is what you fear the most about them, more than Carson Beck and the weapons, and they got two great backs on offense as well. But if you can't block this defensive line to some extent, and we have seen nobody do it yet at all. Florida's got a great offensive line, couldn't do it. Notre Dame couldn't do it. USF, whoever else you want to name. Nobody's been able to block Miami yet, and Louisville's had a hard time blocking anybody. On paper, that's the biggest mismatch in this game. And if that's where Louisville's going to lose this battle, it could be a long night for Miller Moss in their offense.
Yeah, I think, on paper, Miami has a massive advantage over Louisville's offensive line. And also on paper, on the other side of the ball, it should be a war between Louisville and Miami. It's a much more even matchup on that side of the ball right now. Miami's overall dominance as a team this year can largely be attributed to their dominance on the offensive line and defensive line. Right now, they have a 79.9 offensive line grade this year. That's fourth among all offensive lines in college football. And they're one of 4 teams in the country to place inside the top 15 in both pass blocking grade and run blocking grade this year. And also, Carson Beck has done a really good job of taking advantage of those clean pockets. Right now, he's 21st in the nation with a 77% completion rate when he's kept clean in the pocket. But meanwhile, Louisville has the 3rd highest graded defensive line in the nation this year, only behind Texas Tech and, of course, Miami, who's number 2 right there. Louisville, 2nd best pressure rate in college football at about 47% this year, and they only allow 1 rushing yard before contact per attempt, which is 18th in the country. Edge rusher Clev Lubin's a great player. He's 4th in the nation right now among edge rushers in PFF grade. And Renee Conga, the D tackle, is also outstanding too. He's 8th among D tackles in PFF grades. So you have 2 defensive linemen for Louisville who are among the top 10 highest graded players at their position, going up against an elite Miami offensive line too. This should be one of the best trench matchups that we see all season.
Absolutely. Lubin's a stud. He was a stud at Coastal Carolina, and he's transferred to Louisville this year and been outstanding. One of the best pass rushers in the country. Conga on the inside's a really good run defender, too. He's going to be a big factor if they can slow down Mark Fletcher in this run game for the Hurricanes. A.J. Green's been really good. Keep an eye on Antonio Watts from kind of that safety slot position there, blitzing off the edge. So I think what you have with this Louisville pass rush, they're going to want to disturb Carson Beck, obviously, because we've talked about it ad nauseum. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the country in a clean pocket, and he creates his own clean pockets. No Power 4 quarterback with at least 60 attempts has a quicker average time to throw than Carson Beck, 2.35 seconds. So there is going to be an element of this where Beck is going to have to speed up that process once again, as he does every week. And the good news is he's really good at processing defenses and getting rid of the football quickly. He's going to have to protect himself a little bit, but you're going to get an absolute war between the Hurricanes offensive line and the Cardinals defensive line. And both teams, these are 2 of the best defensive lines in the country.
Yeah.
That's going to be the most fun part of this game to watch.
Yeah, like I said, 2 of the 3 highest graded defensive lines that we have in all of college football right now. The only one above them is Texas Tech, who of course has a loaded defensive line that we'll talk about later in the show as well. Ultimately, Dalton, will Miami be upset and suffer their first loss of the season or will the Hurricanes keep it rolling?
I don't think so. I think they have the right formula to get this done at home on a Friday night off of a bye week. The dominance in the trenches every week with Miami. It's one of the most consistent forces in college football right now on both sides, the offensive line, the defensive line. And then I think this is a game here with this level of pass rush, probably the best pass rush they're going to play all year, where having Carson Beck as your quarterback is so valuable, right? Third-year starter, quick release. I mentioned the very quick average time to throw. I think it's a perfect fit to just work around this D-line, even if Miami's offensive line struggles a bit, and it would help to get the run game going between the tackles with Mark Fletcher. So I do think also that their defensive line, look, Miami, they've shown to this point they're unblockable. So I'm not going to go in here and predict Miami's D-line to have a bad game. I think Ruben Bain is in for another big day. Akeem Mesidor is in for another big day. And Miller Moss under pressure, there's just not a lot of answers. He has to either get rid of the football right now or he's going to get sacked because he doesn't improvise and he doesn't have a big arm to throw off his back foot. So I like Miami here 28-13 to keep it rolling.
I have a 31-20 Miami as well. I do think Louisville's defensive line could give Carson Beck and Miami's offensive line some issues. And I do think Louisville has some really good weapons in that offense too, like Chris Bell, like Colin Lacey, like Isaac Brown, obviously at running back too. That could also present some problems for Miami as well. But I think ultimately Miami, as they've done pretty much every week this year, they're going to win this game off of their defensive line and right now the best player in college football in Ruben Bain Jr. So I think Miami wins this game by 2 scores, 31-20 over Louisville. But I do think Louisville might cover the 13.5-point spread that they have in this game on Friday night. All right, let's get to the Saturday slate right now with one of 5 ranked matchups that we have on Saturday. First one, number 10 LSU at number 17 Vanderbilt. Again, noon Eastern time on ABC. The storyline to know in this game is the loser of this game might not have any wiggle room left to make the college football playoff. Both LSU and Vanderbilt are both 5-1 to start their season. Both still have very difficult games left on their schedules. But the winner of this game could feasibly lose one of those remaining games and still make the playoff. The loser of this game would essentially need to run the table to make the college football playoff because remember, no teams last year that were 9-3 in the year made the playoff last year. So the winner of this game still has one more loss they could suffer. The loser of this game might have to run the table against a very difficult schedule.
And both teams with very interesting weeks the last couple weeks. Vanderbilt in their last game 2 weeks ago against Alabama played a solid football game but couldn't finish drives, and a couple red zone turnovers really hurt them. And then LSU bouncing back this past week against South Carolina. Still some offensive concerns. Only beat them 20-10, but got the run game going just enough to get through a hard-fought game like that. Garrett Nussmeier really battling right now. You could see him limping around last Saturday against South Carolina. So I think you have a really fascinating game and what's going to be probably a very raucous environment LSU's going into there in Nashville with Vanderbilt and the momentum they've had going the last year and a half.
Yeah, Vanderbilt favored over LSU right now. We'll get to the prediction later on in the show. Dalton, you have the Vanderbilt offense with the electric quarterback Diego Pavia against what has been an elite LSU secondary this year. What are you looking at on that side of the ball?
So I think 2 weeks ago when we previewed Vanderbilt against Alabama, I talked a lot about the passing game and the improvement in the drop-back passing game and Diego Pavia and just how good he's been, right, which is fantastic. But at the end of the day, I think in this matchup with LSU having one of the best secondaries in the country, that is the reason they are 5-1. That is the reason they've won all these low-scoring games is A.J. Halsey and Tamarcus Cooley and Mansour Delane in this secondary have been outstanding, especially preventing deep shots. So I think this is a week for Vanderbilt. Not that they ever get away from it, but this is a week to really ride the foundation of their running game, right? I mean, you talk about all the option football, Cedric Alexander, Diego Pavia, the pulling guards, all the schemes, everything like that. Look, Vanderbilt this year, they're 28th in rushing grade. They're 3rd in yards per carry. Max, they are 1st in yards before contact per carry, which tells you all the schemes are working constantly, and you still have to respect this passing game. You can't just put 9 guys in the box and load this up. And LSU, this is an interesting dynamic because I think this Vandy offense is even better than it was last year. The way that LSU attacked Vanderbilt in the run game last year is getting super, super aggressive. Basically, just have a guy sprint at Diego Pavia every single play. We'll see if they can approach it the same way this year. And a big factor, too, in this game is the fact that Harold Perkins is playing this time. He didn't play in this game last year. So the big thing for me in this game is a couple things. Perkins, Whit Weeks, Devon Kiesel's linebackers on that second level, those are the guys that get stressed out the most playing against Vanderbilt because you see so often that the schemes work and the linebackers get lost and they can't find the football, and that's why they lead the nation in yards before contact per carry. So you have all this open space because second-level defenders are just lost with the option game and all the pulling guards and everything like that. Now, LSU, okay, very, very good at defending the edges, okay? Harold Perkins at that star position really helps you in the option game because he can chase down almost any quarterback in the country. Very good at defending the edges. But between the tackles, they're just 90th in yards per carry allowed. Okay, 5.1 yards per carry allowed when runs get between the tackles. I think this game really comes down to, on this side of the ball, all of Vandy's foundational run schemes and all the fun stuff, on the creative stuff that Tim Beck puts together against LSU's linebackers. If LSU's linebackers can stay disciplined and find the football early in plays, they're going to be okay on defense. You know, if Harold Perkins and Whit Weeks and these guys get undisciplined and they start crashing too hard and Vandy works around them for those explosive runs, they're going to have an issue. That's really the matchup I'm watching for, is those schemes and how those guys can find the football at the second level against this run game, because Vandy losing the time of possession so badly against Alabama, that's really why they lost the game. They want to come in here and control this football game with the run game.
Yeah, I'm looking at the run game as well for LSU and whether or not they can find it once again against Vanderbilt, because LSU has been extremely reliant on Garrett Nussmeier this season. They throw the ball at about 59% of their plays, as the 13th highest rate in the entire Power 4, mainly because LSU has the 5th worst rushing grade in the Power 4 and the 6th worst run blocking grade in the Power 4 this season too. But the Tigers did have their best rushing performance of the year this past weekend against South Carolina. They ran for a season-high 165 yards in the win, with 143 yards coming after contact. Caden Durham led the way with 70 rushing yards in that game, but true sophomore Jawan Johnson also ran for a career-high 65 yards on only 5 carries as well, so averaging 13 yards per carry in that win over South Carolina. Vanderbilt's run defense has been pretty average this year. Right now, they're 53rd in yards per attempt allowed at 4.5. 3 of those yards come after contact, which is 70th in the FBS too. LSU needs to exploit that, so Vanderbilt cannot sit back in their zone coverage all day and dare Garrett Nussmeier to beat them. If they can force Vanderbilt to commit more defenders in the box, that will open up some avenues for Garrett Nussmeier to win through the air as a passer.
And you're talking about more modest totals than we would talk about for an elite rushing team like a Vanderbilt. Even when you talk about, okay, last week against South Carolina, they ran for 165 yards. Last year against Vanderbilt, they ran for 145. That's all we're really looking for from LSU, is you just can't have those games where you're running for 60 or 70 yards and everything is on Garrett Nussmeier to drop back 55, 60 times. If they have just a little bit of balance, everything else starts to work. You get the ball to the outside, you get it to Trey'Dez Green, who had a fantastic game last week. You get it to Xavion Thomas, and if Aaron Anderson's healthy this week, I mean, they've got weapons to work with, but anytime you're one-dimensional, offense gets really, really hard, right? And it's been hard for LSU to score points this year because they have been so one-dimensional for so many games. But last week was an encouraging sign. If they can balance this thing out and control possession a little bit better, like Alabama did to Vanderbilt 2 weeks ago, then you talk about this thing tilting in LSU's favor.
Definitely. All right, Dalton, and what could be a huge game for the college football playoff hopes for both programs. Who will win between LSU and Vanderbilt in this top 20 showdown?
This is tough because this is the first of a million games here that, I think are right on the fence.
Yep.
And you know, I do think there is a reason that Vanderbilt is favored. They did not look that bad at Alabama outside of the 2 red zone turnovers that really hurt them, right? They could have gone into Alabama and played just a little bit better and won that game, and their offense has been electric all year, right? LSU, on the other hand, defense has been outstanding, especially the secondary, but they have struggled to score. I don't think there's any question about that. They've struggled to score 20 points on South Carolina. They're winning games 20-10 and 24-13 and things like that. I think Vanderbilt at home especially, I think they're going to be pretty comfortable, and as long as they can get their run game going pretty early, this was only a 7-point game last year when LSU beat them. I think Vandy's even better this year. I'm going to take them to get it done at home 24-20. Give me the Commodores.
I'm actually going to the opposite side here. I'm going LSU to win this game 27-24. I think Diego Pavia will struggle to get much going as LSU's elite secondary in this game, and I think LSU will play enough complementary football on offense to escape Nashville with a close win. But like Dalton said, this should be an incredible, incredible ball game at noon. It's like a 50-50 coin toss like a lot of other games this weekend. But I'll go with LSU 27-24 over Vanderbilt, which should be an awesome game between two top 20 teams in the SEC right now. Another massive noon game here. Number 12, Georgia Tech at Duke. It's on noon on ESPN. This game could be pivotal in deciding who plays in the ACC title game later on in December. Georgia Tech and Duke are two of the 5 remaining ACC teams this year who are undefeated in conference play. The Yellow Jackets are undefeated overall this year, the perfect 6-0 record. And if they win this game, they may finish the year undefeated in conference play, which would put them at an 11-1 record at least overall. Can still play Georgia at the very end of the year too, but 11-1 Georgia Tech going into the ACC title game could be in the playoff regardless. Remember, SMU last year was 11-1 before losing to Clemson. They still made the playoff. Georgia Tech could be in a very similar boat if they beat Duke, because their schedule the rest of the year is relatively easy after this Duke game in the ACC too. So, like I said, that could pretty much lock up a playoff spot for Georgia Tech if they win this game and, of course, win the remaining ACC games too. Duke, meanwhile, is 4-2 this year, but their 2 losses came out of conference to Illinois and Tulane. Duke has every opportunity to make it to Charlotte in December, and if you make it to the ACC title game, you can lock up a playoff spot automatically if you win the ACC title game. So Duke pretty much needs to win out and make the ACC title game and win it to make the playoff, but winning this game against Georgia Tech will go a long way in determining that.
Yeah, Georgia Tech's got an interesting road, and remember how they played Georgia last year. Don't just take that game for granted as a loss, plus they get it at home, but you look at their next 4, and you look at Syracuse, NC State, Boston College, and Pitt. If Georgia Tech gets by this game, you really do feel like you have a road to go undefeated in the ACC and locking in that conference title spot, in one of those. And then Duke, they're in a huge stretch. 3 of their next 4 games are Georgia Tech, Clemson, Virginia. That's going to decide their season right there. If they were to get through those 3 games, all of them undefeated in ACC play, they got a couple easier ones on the back end, then you're talking about them being the second place team here. We assume behind Miami, but you don't want to just count games before they happen, but that's really the way it seems like the ACC is shaking out. So this is an absolutely massive game, and yes, you could argue, aside from the Georgia game, at least in ACC play, that this is the biggest game left on Georgia Tech's schedule.
Absolutely. All right, Dalton, you have the Duke offense with one of the highest graded quarterbacks in the country in Darian Mensah. What should we know when the Blue Devils have the ball in this game?
I think, and Mensah, don't get me wrong, he has been outstanding this year, right? Against Illinois, some turnovers hurt him, same thing against Tulane, but for the most part, he has been terrific. I believe he's got a top 5 passing grade in the country. He does. He's got the second highest passing grade in the country behind Julian Sayin. But I think something that struck me watching these 3 wins that they've gotten, these 3 consecutive wins they've gotten before this game, is that Mensah is throwing the football less, and they might have a star emerging in true freshman running back Nate Shepherd. I actually didn't know this till I looked at it this week, because I was like, man, who is this back that's just teeing off all of a sudden on these other ACC teams? He's actually the little brother of former Colorado receiver Will Shepherd, currently on the Green Bay Packers practice squad. So this kid is outstanding. He's got an 86 rushing grade. They've gone to him more the last 3 games, 12th best rushing grade in the country, 56 carries, 19 missed tackles forced, a really good ratio, 16 explosive runs. I mean, you're talking about a guy that the speed that he gives you. Jaquez Moore was kind of struggling. Anderson Castle's a bigger, more physical between the tackles back. This kid, a true freshman running back, is making the difference and giving more balance to this offense. And I'm telling you right now, Max, he's got blazing speed. There is not another player to me in this offense that has the speed like this. So, when you talk about, okay, the headline of this Duke team was Darian Mensah coming in the portal for all that money, and he's throwing to Cooper Barkate and Quayshawn Brown. But the first 3 games, when they went 1-2, they were way too one-dimensional. They couldn't find enough explosive runs to balance this thing out. Nate Shepherd is the guy giving it to them. And if Duke can continue to be two-dimensional on offense with the way that Mensah's been throwing the ball all season, they're an incredibly dangerous offense now. I think that's really what it is the true freshman back Shepherd has made the biggest difference for this team between the 1-2 start and now winning 3 games in a row where they've scored at least 38 points in each one.
Yeah, I am looking at Georgia Tech's offense in this one against Duke's secondary, which may have finally turned the corner right now. If you remember, in our offseason rankings, I had Duke as one of the 10 best secondaries in college football. They had superstars like cornerback Chandler Rivers and safety Terry Moore. Chandler Rivers and Terry Moore were the highest graded players in the Power 4 last year at cornerback and safety. Terry Moore has not played yet this year. He's recovering from a torn ACL he suffered last season. Chandler Rivers has played this year. And with Terry Moore out, Duke's secondary really, really struggled to begin the season. From weeks 1 through 4 this year, Duke had a 43 coverage grade, which was dead last in the entire country. But Duke has turned it around in the last 2 games against Syracuse and Cal. Since week 5, they have an 85.6 coverage grade. That's 3rd in the Power 4 and 8th in the entire country. So again, the worst coverage grade in the country from weeks 1 through 4. From weeks 5 through 7, they have the 8th best coverage grade in the country. I will say, though, it is worth pointing out, Syracuse was on their backup quarterback in that game, and Ricky Collins, because Steve Angeli, of course, is out for the year with a torn Achilles. But still, Duke secondary has played great football over their last 2 games. This week will prove, though, if Duke's secondary has truly improved, because Georgia Tech quarterback Haynes King has an 82% adjusted completion rate this year. The only quarterback in the nation with a higher adjusted completion rate is, of course, Ohio State quarterback Julian Sayin. The Yellow Jackets also have very, very talented receivers like Isaiah Canyon, Eric Rivers, and Malik Rutherford. Those guys might be able to separate against a Duke defense that runs a lot of man coverage too. So again, Duke secondary, which has been a major issue for most of this year, but has rebounded nicely in the last 2 games, they will be tested this week against Haynes King and those receivers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're talking about Eric Rivers on the outside. You're talking about Malik Rutherford on the outside, is always flying around the field. Haynes King has been really good. So I think there's going to be this constant battle, and there always is with Georgia Tech. Can you keep them behind the chains, right? Can you stop the run on early downs and get them in obvious passing situations? Even a 3rd and 7 is not necessarily where Georgia Tech wants to be. And then the interesting part, as always, we've talked about it before with Manny Diaz and the blitz packages in those situations. Haynes King's passing grade is 20 points lower when he is blitzed compared to when he's not. So you're talking about, look, Manny Diaz is going to show him those looks, but he's got to get a chance to do it, because if you line up in a lot of those flat looks, those mug looks on 3rd and 2, they're liable to just wash you down and run the football right by you, right? So it's going to be big on early downs for Duke to stop Georgia Tech in this elite run game they have. Malachi Hosley's been outstanding lately. Jamal Haynes is always good. And, of course, Haynes King himself is just going to try to will him to a win at times. So I think you've got a great matchup of 2 different styles, although I think Duke's offense is getting into more of a 2-dimensional style here as opposed to, the 50 times a game that Mensa was throwing earlier in the year. But it's always going to be about, against Georgia Tech, how many times can you get them in obvious passing situations and make Haynes King beat you from the pocket?
So Dalton, Georgia Tech, number 12 in the country right now. They are undefeated in the season, but they are underdogs this week on the road against Duke in a game that could decide who potentially plays Miami in the ACC title game later on in December. Who will win between Georgia Tech and Duke?
I suppose it's that old thing from The Office, right? I'm ready to be hurt again, because the first 2 Duke games that we had, I picked Duke in both games, and they let me down.
Yep.
And I'm going to do it a 3rd time. We're going to go again. And I actually believe, watching the last 3 games, I do believe Nate Shepard's presence in the backfield has made this a different offense, because as opposed to having Mensa throwing 50 times a game, he's throwing 35-ish times a game, right? And I think that's just more ideal for any quarterback to have that balance in the offense, and Shepard is super explosive. I also think Georgia Tech has gotten away. They've gotten away with a few of them, right? Even the first game against Colorado, behind early. The Wake Forest game, battling all the way to overtime. You could argue they shouldn't have won that game. They were better against Virginia Tech last week, but that's Virginia Tech. It's not a great situation there. I don't know how much yet still that I trust this Georgia Tech defense. I'm going to ride Duke, and I think it's going to be a very hard-fought game, because Haynes King absolutely will not quit. We know that for a fact. Maybe the toughest player in college football. Blue Devils 31, Yellow Jackets 28.
I have Georgia Tech winning this game 35-34. I think both quarterbacks in this game, and Haynes King and Darian Mensah, could have success against inconsistent at best secondaries this year. This game could turn into a shootout. I think the Yellow Jackets survive that shootout and continue their undefeated season. But like my score suggests, it's going to be a nail-biter. I think it's going to be an incredible, incredible ball game that will be massive in determining who moves on to the ACC title game later on in December, too. So we've differed on the last 2 games, Dalton, with LSU and Vandy and Georgia Tech and Duke. We'll see about this one, another noon game. Washington at Michigan, noon on Fox. This game could end up being a playoff elimination game for both programs. So neither Washington nor Michigan are ranked right now. I will say the Huskies are in my personal top 25 at PFF.com. This game still holds huge playoff implications for both programs. Washington is 5-1 this season. Their only loss came to the number one team in the country in Ohio State. A loss for Washington in this game wouldn't outright kill their playoff hopes, but it would make them really unlikely considering Washington still has Illinois and Oregon left on its schedule. For Michigan, a loss in this game would pretty much kill those playoff hopes because Michigan's already lost to USC and Oklahoma this year. And like I mentioned before, no 9-3 teams last year made the college football playoff. I doubt a 9-3 team this year will make the college football playoff. So the Wolverines essentially cannot lose another game if they want to make the 12-team field. This is a rematch of the 2023 national title game, and it could essentially be a playoff eliminator for whoever loses this game.
And a rematch of last year's game in Washington where the Huskies won, I believe it was 24-14. I think you're right. Michigan at 9-3. If a 9-3 team is going to make it, it's probably going to be an SEC team with an absolutely loaded schedule, because there's a couple of those teams playing ranked games every single week, right? So it would be someone like that. But I think a 9-3 Michigan team, there's just not enough great wins. You look at their wins right now. New Mexico, Central Michigan, Nebraska's solid, right? I mean, okay, cool. And Wisconsin's not great. So I don't know that there's enough wins to overcome 9-3. And then
maybe Ohio State, though. If they beat Ohio State again, maybe that would be enough.
Maybe. But even then, there's going to be a balance, and the full resume still matters here, right? And then Washington, I think they're in the midst of their biggest 2 weeks of the season. They get they get Michigan this week, then they get Illinois right after. If they come out winning both of those games somehow, and Illinois, I believe they get it home. Yes, they do. If you're talking about that now, then you're going, there's a road to 10-2 here. Because they do play Oregon later in the year. But you get through Michigan and Illinois, and we start talking about Washington as a dark horse playoff team, especially with their quarterback, the way he's playing. So this is for the Big Ten standings, for at-large consideration, especially with some other games that we have going this week. This is a massive, massive game that I think may get put on the back burner because it's not one of the ranked games, but it's very, very important to both of these teams.
I mean, Michigan was ranked top 15 last week, and they fell out after losing to USC, obviously. And like I said, I would rank Washington right now, too. So, I mean, this very well could have been a ranked game. I think both these teams are easily top 30 or so teams in college football right now. You have the Michigan offense in this game, Dalton. What should we know with Bryce Underwood and, of course, that Michigan ground game against Washington?
So the big question, and Sharon Moore yesterday, as of this recording, today is Tuesday, and as of yesterday, he said that he thinks Justice Haynes is questionable. That's huge because you could feel last week when Justice Haynes got hurt against USC, the offense really just sputtered immediately. He's been one of the best backs in the country. Michigan wants to run the football. Bryce Underwood, the true freshman, and the receivers on the outside really haven't gotten it fully firing on all cylinders in the passing game, right? Which can be expected. You still, as talented as Underwood is, they've got it. He's a true freshman quarterback, and it's not a great receiving core when you talk about really Donovan McCulley, a former quarterback, has been their most consistent guy. Now, as far as Washington goes, had a slow start this year in run defense, but I think they've gotten better in recent weeks. You look at their last few games, their last 4 games. So since week 3, they're 31st in the country in run defense grade, the 13th in yards per carry allowed, they're 11th in explosive run rate allowed. That includes a game against Ohio State where they gave up somewhere around 150, 160 rushing yards, but it wasn't like they got mauled over. So I think what you're going to have here is if Haynes is playing, then you've got a different task. If he's not, you start to like the advantage, coming from Washington's side here in run defense. And I think the key guys are going to be some of these second-level guys. Have you heard this thing about this linebacking core this year with Washington? So first, they had Tariq Alukta, the transfer from Washington State, who played 3 games and then got hurt, I think ironically, against Washington State. He's out for the year. You've got, where's my names here? You've got Devin Bryant, who's the constant, right? Then you got this weird situation. Jacob Manu, who Jed Fish had at Arizona. He's got this weird eligibility thing going on where they're trying to keep his red shirt because he got hurt after playing 4 games last year. They're trying to keep his red shirt this year. So he has played in 2 games this year against Ohio State and Maryland. He has sat in the other ones, even though he's healthy. And it's like Jed Fish is trying to pick, like, hey, where can I use my guy in the biggest spots? And maybe this is one of them because he's trying to keep him at just playing 4 games to keep the red shirt, which is wild when you consider where we're at now with these red shirts in this 4-game thing. So now it's like there's a suspense of Haynes playing on one side. There's Jacob Manu. There's a suspense of is he playing on the other side? And Jed Fish said they'll decide later in the week. And then you've got another linebacker, a transfer from UCF, X-Ray Alexander, who's played really well also. And then you've got Alex McLaughlin at safety, who's a big-time factor there. You just got so many weird unknown dimensions on a Tuesday afternoon right now thinking about this matchup, Michigan's run game versus Washington's run defense. But if they're fully loaded and Manu is playing, that is another big factor because he's a really solid run defender, a veteran guy that Fish knew from Arizona. And he stayed at Arizona last year but then transferred over this year. But I mean, it's obvious that when you play Michigan, you got to stop the run. So the suspense of Haynes, the suspense of Manu, and then just both teams going out there and executing because Michigan's their passing game, you get them behind the chains, it's not great. Yep. And I know Underwood's the big flashy name and the true freshman, highly touted and all that, but it hasn't been great. There's not enough weapons for this team to drop back and throw the football. They have to win with the run game. If they can't do it, with or without Haynes, they're going to have a big problem.
I'm looking at Washington's offense. A lot of people in the chat are shouting out Damon Williams, who is just
animal.
Oh, dude, he's awesome. He's one of the most electric quarterbacks that we have in all of college football. So really, I'm looking at whether or not Michigan can contain Damon Williams in this game. Damon Williams, a true sophomore, 89.5 PFF grade this year, 7th among all quarterbacks in the country. He's 3rd in the nation in completion rate, 7 big-time throws, no turnover-worthy plays so far, 473 rushing yards. The only quarterback in the Power 4 who has more than him is Taylon Green of Arkansas. He's only 5'11". His game, Dalton, when I was watching his tape a couple days ago, preparing for this preview, it's very reminiscent of Kyler Murray, honestly. I'm not saying he's going to be the number 1 overall pick or a Heisman Trophy winner, maybe, the way he's playing right now, maybe. But I am saying that's how electric he is, getting outside of the pocket, scrambling when he needs to. The running style is, of course, very similar to Kyler Murray, too. Has a really good arm, like Kyler Murray, despite being undersized, too. I love watching Damon Williams, man. This guy is a stud for Washington. I will say, though, Michigan has the 5th best run defense grade in college football this year at 92.7. But Michigan has had some issues with mobile quarterbacks this year. John Mateer in Oklahoma's win over Michigan in week 2 of this year, he ran for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns. Angel Flores from Central Michigan ran for 71 yards against the Wolverines as well. So Michigan's ability to keep Damon Williams and Jonah Coleman, their star running back for Washington too, in check in the ground game will be massive in Michigan's chances to win this game. You cannot let Damon Williams beat you with his legs first, because if he does that and you stack the box on him, all of a sudden go over the top to Denzel Boston, one of the best receivers in the country, maybe a first-round pick in this draft. There are some studs that Michigan has to deal with on this Washington offense, and it all starts with the true sophomore quarterback in Damon Williams.
The difference for Washington's offense this year really is twofold, and they both have to do with Williams' talents. A, the obvious contrast, and they were using him in kind of a wildcat role early last year for Will Rogers, because Will Rogers last year was not a runner at all, and Williams is an electric runner. It's that, and it's the fact that they can get vertical down the field this year. He's been excellent throwing the football down the field, and the fact that he is such a downfield passer and yet does not have a turnover-worthy play yet as a passer this year, that's ridiculous stuff from Williams. He can absolutely take games over. What was it, 530-something yards of offense last week for him against Rutgers? I mean, just ridiculous. Probably won't have that level on Michigan, but those are the things that he's capable of, and they scored 38 on Rutgers last week with Jonah Coleman having a very quiet day. Coleman's always a big factor in this offense, especially in a game like this where he can be such a physical runner, one of the most physical runners in the country. So you do wonder. Ohio State, when they played Washington, they basically said, run and passing game. We will not let Damon run the football. We're not going to do it. He had 7 carries for 18 yards. They played a little extra wide on the defensive line, and you could see when they were rushing the passer, they made a point to work it outside in and have a spy at all times. Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, Caden Curry was a big factor in all of that too. Is Wink Martindale, who we know to be such a heavy blitzer. Is he going to send pressure at him and give him those chances to break the pocket, or is it going to be a little bit more conservative? Because the blitz hurt him. It hurt him last week against Jaden Maiava, right? And Maiava threw right over the top of it. Williams is willing to stand in the pocket and chuck it down the seams, or he's got an even better ability than Maiava to break outside the pocket and run. He's an extremely dangerous runner. So, again, I think Martindale has to make that choice. Does he make the same one Matt Patricia did and keep him in the pocket, or do we come after him and try to rush him?
Ultimately, Dalton, in a game that could be a playoff eliminator for both programs and a rematch of the national title game 2 years ago, who's going to win between Washington and Michigan?
I got to be honest with you. We don't know, as we're recording this, if Justice Haynes is playing. This Michigan offense, I don't trust it very much. When you look at the games that they have played, and now they ran all over Nebraska. They put up 30 on Nebraska, and that's a pretty bad run defense. We've gone over that. But they did not look good on offense against Oklahoma. Great defense, admittedly, better than Washington's. They didn't look great on offense against Wisconsin. They beat them 24-10, and some of those points came kind of late in that game. That was kind of ugly. And then last week, I know Haynes got hurt, but USC's defense is not great. We'll go over that later. And yet they only scored 13 on USC, and really the last 7 of that was just a bomb touchdown where USC had one bust in coverage. I don't know that if Washington gets ahead in this game that Michigan can come back with their passing game. I actually kind of like the Huskies in this game. I just think there's more offensive capability. And this Michigan defense this year, it is very good. I don't think it's last year's unit. And this Washington team with Will Rogers playing quarterback, Jed Fish found a way around it and beat this team last year. I don't know that Michigan makes up that gap. And the only reason I hesitate on it at all is because it's at Michigan in Ann Arbor in the Big House this time. But I'm going to take the Huskies 27-23. I think Williams goes in there and gets it done and proves to us he's a star.
I have it 27-24. But for, what was it, the third straight game now, I'm disagreeing with you. I have Michigan winning this game.
It is that kind of slate,
It
man.
is an incredible slate of college football. I love this. I think the Huskies have a below-average run defense. I'm hoping Justice Haynes plays in this game, because if he doesn't, then all of a sudden I think Washington probably will win the game. But I think if Haynes does play, Michigan could have a huge advantage with their run game over Washington's run defense. And I think Michigan's defense is good enough to contain DeMond Williams as a runner, and also it's at Michigan too. In that Big House, and they'll play a big advantage for Michigan too. So I think it'll be enough for Michigan to pull out the home victory. But it should be an awesome ball game too.
And the one other thing too that I would worry about for Washington is they have a little bit of a habit of getting off to slow starts. We saw that we've seen it for a couple of games now. They need to come out ready a little bit, because it seems like when Williams gets somewhere halfway through the second quarter or into the second half, when he gets in a groove, boy, he's flying. I mean, this offense is electric. But they need to get off to a better start in the first quarter. If they can't do that and they go 3 and out the first couple drives and they let Michigan control possession, they might have an issue early, but we're going to see. We're going to find out. I think that should be an emphasis for Jed Fish. They need to get off to a better start in this game.
Drake Holiday in the chat saying, Max is still my boy, but I'm on Team Dalton today with all these picks.
Hey,
there you go.
Some no ball,
We'll go to Arizona State later on in the show. We'll see. Big game for ASU this week.
A huge game. We getting Sam Levitt back? Do we have word on that?
We'll see. We'll talk about that later on.
Maybe we'll know in the next hour.
Show. We are only a third of the way through our preview show right now. Before we get to the final 8 games of this preview, we're going to talk about the sponsor of the show. That is Fabric by Gerber Life. Parenting is filled with high-pressure decisions, and it can be difficult to tell if you've made the right choice for our kids' future. But here's a simple decision that you can make today that can have a meaningful impact on your kids' future, and that's opening a UGMA Kids investment account with Fabric to start their investment journey early and give them a financial head start. Fabric by Gerber Life was designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. With a kids investment account from Fabric, you can start investing in your child's future today. Kids can't invest when they're minors, but a UGMA Kids investment account allows you to invest on their behalf now and gives their investments more time to grow. There are no contribution limits, multiple tax advantages, and they're SIPC insured up to $500,000. Plus, no commission fees, just a low, flat monthly maintenance fee. Fabric has partnered with Gerber Life, trusted by millions of families like yours for over 50 years. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to protect their family. Start investing in your child today at meetfabric.com/PFFcollege. That's meetfabric.com/PFFcollege. meetfabric.com/PFFcollege. This is a paid promotion for the Fabric UGMA product and not for investment advisory services. Portfolios are managed by Fort Washington Investment Advisors Incorporated. Custodial services are provided by Apex Clearing Corporation. All investing is subject to risk. Terms may apply. Learn more at meetfabric.com. All right, next up in our preview, done with the noon games just barely, because now we have number 14 Oklahoma at South Carolina, 12:45 p.m. kickoff on SEC Network. Really, the storyline to know is, can Oklahoma bounce back from its loss to Texas this past week? It was the first loss of the year for the Sooners. They lost 23-6 in the Red River rivalry to their arch rival in Texas. Oklahoma went from number 6 in the AP poll all the way down to number 14. And they have one of the most daunting schedules in college football coming up, Dalton. The second half of Oklahoma's schedule includes 5 games against top 20 teams right now in number 5 Ole Miss, number 6 Alabama, number 10 LSU, number 11 Tennessee, number 16 Missouri. That's 5 of their last 6 games for Oklahoma. The only team that Oklahoma has left in the schedule that is not currently ranked is this week's game against South Carolina right now, who's looking to get back on track after losing 3 of their last 4 games. If Oklahoma, starts looking ahead to those games coming up and overlooks this game, and South Carolina wins this game, it may need to win all 5 of those top 20 matchups later on in the year to make the college football playoffs. So Oklahoma cannot be overlooking this road game against South Carolina this week.
That scenario we talked about earlier, where could a team at 9-3 get into the playoff? I think with their schedule, the most likely team that would be Oklahoma.
Yep.
When you look at their losses, if you've got 2 losses amongst that group on top of the one that they already have to Texas, you're talking about losing to maybe, let's say they lose to 3 of the 15 best teams in the country. I think as long as they look better than they did against Texas, because it was an ugly performance against Texas, I think Oklahoma would have at least some conversation about, what, this team has played maybe the hardest schedule in the country at 9-3. It's pretty brutal. So I think that is something that could be considered down the line. South Carolina's schedule too, and they're 3-3 with this game up first. Have you seen this? I got to be honest with you. Let's looking at South Carolina's real quick. If they don't win this game, I'm not sure they make a bowl game, because they've got their next 4 games: Oklahoma, Alabama, Ole Miss, A&M. And then you have the Clemson game, of course, at the end. You never know how that goes. If South Carolina doesn't win a game or 2 here pretty soon, they might not make a bowl game. So I think the level of urgency here just to get this thing back on track after losing their 3 of their last 4, it's going to be big for South Carolina. And they're another one. Get hot like you did last year. Win the last 6. Maybe at 9-3 you get considered again. I don't want to traumatize anybody from last year's experience, but no, you got 2 teams that this is pivotal for both of them in different ways.
Yep, absolutely. So, Dalton, you have the South Carolina offense in this one, with an offense that has been extremely reliant on Lenora Sellers at quarterback, with not a great supporting cast around him, going up against an elite Oklahoma defense. What should we know when they have the ball?
Look, it's an elite defense. They stop the run well. They stop the pass well. They prevent explosive plays with the best of them. Brent Venables has all the looks and exotic blitz packages on defense. But at the end of the day, what I'm looking for from this South Carolina team, does their offensive line have a pulse? At all, because this has really been the problem all year. It's been the problem the last couple years. Last year it was their biggest weakness. This year walking in it was their biggest weakness. And I get that Lenora Sellers can break tackles and scrambles and do all the things that he can do, but when you're talking about going against David Stone and R. Mason Thomas and Grayson Halton and all these defensive linemen that Oklahoma has now, I thought this was the challenge for Texas last week, and Texas offensive line was up to it. So there is some hope if you're South Carolina, but they got to play better up front. You look at this season just in general, their offensive line, 109th in PFF grade, 89th in pass blocking grade, 124th, the 13th highest pressure rate allowed in the country, and 116th in run blocking grade. This offense is essentially, you've mentioned this before, hey, Lenoris, you got to be Superman, right? You got to work around this offensive line because we can't block anybody. You have to find some sort of pulse on the offensive line. Texas did it last week. They scratched their way to 23 points. They won a football game in a defensive-minded game. South Carolina, it's got to be the same blueprint, but they cannot continue to have these very, very below-average offensive line performances week in and week out in these SEC games. If they don't step it up even a little bit this week, they're going to get the same results offensively that they've gotten because they just haven't been able to block anybody at a high level.
Yeah, I'm looking at Oklahoma's offense in this game, and really, is John Mateer truly ready to play this week? Because he had hand surgery on his throwing hand after injuring his right thumb in Oklahoma's win over Auburn. He was initially given a recovery timeline about a month at least, and he miraculously returned this past week against Texas, which was only 17 days after his surgery. And to say he struggled would be an understatement. A 31.1 passing grade, the worst not only this year, his entire career against Texas. He threw 3 interceptions. He had 4 turnover-worthy plays with no touchdowns and no big-time throws in the loss. Now, plenty of people were saying after the game, John Mateer is not physically ready to play in this game. John Mateer emphasized, hey, I was physically ready to play this game. I was not mentally ready to play this game. So his eyes were not ready to play this game. So Mateer emphasized, hey, I am healthy enough to play. I just wasn't mentally ready to play this game against Texas. He will need to bounce back this week in South Carolina. That should present an easier challenge than Texas. They do have talent on the South Carolina defense, like Dylan Stewart, of course, and some really good players in the secondary too. But right now, South Carolina is 100th in coverage grade this year and 54th in pass rush grade, whereas Texas is really good, obviously, in coverage and in pass rushing this year. So it will be an easier challenge, I think, for Mateer this week, but he better be mentally and physically ready to go, and he cannot play like he did against Texas, because otherwise South Carolina probably will pull off the upset.
Decision-making's got to be better. I mean, the 4 turnover-worthy plays, that's the highlight, is that, yes, it was inaccurate, but also he even said himself bad decisions, right? And he's trying to get practice reps and really get his eyes back to full speed in this offense that really same thing on this side. I think he has to carry them, right? The run game hasn't been great. They've got Deion Burks. They've got Jaron Kanek. Isaac Sategna's been good at times, but a bit inconsistent. So it's not an offense, I don't think, for Oklahoma that has a ton of room for error, and they need the quarterback to play elite football. Mateer has to bounce back. He just has to. I think this is a fascinating matchup because I really do think this game. I'm not a fan of when people just they look at 2 teams and they go, oh, the quarterback's going against each other, right? Like that sort of thing. If there was a game where I was going to say that's the case, it's this one.
Yeah.
I think it really is about Sellers versus Mateer, and A, which one of these 2 offensive lines can just block somebody, right? And B, which one of them is going to make the backbreaking mistake? And a lot of it could come down to the scrambling and the improv with these 2. It's going to be – I know Oklahoma's 14 here, but I think you got a very interesting game.
So, Dalton, we have differed in the last 3 games so far. Will we differ once again in this one, and will Oklahoma bounce back from his loss to Texas last week, or will South Carolina get a much, much needed win for that program right now?
All of the numbers on the surface tell me, yeah, Oklahoma, right? They're just better, right? The defense is elite. They prevent explosive plays. They do all the things that, just like LSU last week, with preventing the explosive play, especially through the air, that you should be able to do to beat Lenore Sellers. And then I do some digging. And what I wanted to look at here, because I felt like, it's sometimes you get the early season stats. It can be a bit padded sometimes against those bad teams, right? When you get to play the Kent States and FCS teams and things like that. And when I looked at these 2 teams, when you look at a lot of the numbers when they play just Power 4 teams, it's kind of similar. And South Carolina, I mean, tell me this. If Oklahoma, instead of Michigan, Auburn, and Texas, if they played LSU, Missouri, Vandy, how many of those are you taking them to win?
Probably 2.
You think so?
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be hard fought, right? It would be like it would not be – because I think any of those games, depending home and road and matchup and all of that, could go any which way.
Yeah.
Right? In the SEC, we know is so deep and so even. And obviously, South Carolina's lost all 3, which says something. But they got blown out by Vandy. The other 2 were pretty close games. I think these teams are extremely similar. I think Oklahoma's defense is a little bit better. Obviously, the coverage part of that is the big thing. But you look at their offenses. Not great offensive lines. Receiving cores that kind of run up and down a bit. You want a fun fact on Oklahoma? They have the second fewest rushing yards in the Power 4 from their running backs, only ahead of North Carolina. Their offense is just John Mateer trying to carry them, and South Carolina's is just Lenore Sellers trying to carry them. I think these teams are a lot more the same than we think. I'm going to go with the home team, Gamecocks, 20-17. Maybe against my better judgment with some of the surface numbers, and I'm digging too deep, but I'm going to do it. I think Mateer, they need him to step up, and we still don't know if he's 100% really. And the fact that he has to carry them so much, I think, especially in the run game. I think it's a problem because South Carolina's run defense has also been good aside from the Missouri game, and they're a wagon on the ground.
So this is our 5th game that we're previewing today, and we have differed on now 4 of those 5 games so far. I'm going Oklahoma. I have Oklahoma 27-17. I think the Oklahoma defense is going to shut down that South Carolina offense. And I think John Mateer will shake off enough rust in this one against an easier defense in South Carolina than he had against Texas last week. I think Oklahoma's going to bounce back with a road victory. But, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, we've differed now on 4 of the 5 games.
4 in a row.
4 in a row now.
4 in a row.
I don't think we've ever done that before.
Yeah, no, we've got some different arguments we're making here. Boy, I'll tell you what, the standings in our game picks are they're gonna flip one way or the other.
They
this
could flip, or we go 2-2 on those 4, and be like, it's the same thing.
That's probably what will end up happening. We'll end up with the same record with 2 wildly different roads of getting there. Yeah, that's probably what will happen.
I'll tell you what, we have differed on 4 in a row. We could differ on 5 in a row because the biggest game of the week is up next. Number 5 Ole Miss at number 9 Georgia, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC. Can Georgia get revenge in the biggest game of the weekend? 9th-ranked Georgia is hosting ESPN's College Game Day this week. Number 5 Ole Miss is coming to town. It's the only matchup between top 10 teams this weekend. The Bulldogs have won 34 of the 48 all-time meetings between these two programs, but they're looking to avenge last season's 28-10 loss to Ole Miss. Georgia was ranked number 3 in the country at the time of that game. Ole Miss is number 16 in the country at the time of that game. So major win for Lane Kiffin last year over Georgia. Also, speaking of Lane Kiffin, this game is pitting 2 of Nick Saban's former assistants against each other. Because Lane Kiffin and Kirby Smart were co-workers together in 2014 and 2015 at Alabama. You had Nick Saban as the head coach, Lane Kiffin as the offensive coordinator, Kirby Smart as the defensive coordinator. That's a pretty good coaching staff right there. And plenty of other current head coaches in college football. I think Dan Lanning was a grad assistant on that staff too. I mean, that 2015 Alabama staff is like one of the greatest coaching staffs I think I've ever seen in college football. But you had Lane Kiffin and Kirby Smart, who were both of Nick Saban's coordinators during those 2 years too. So it'd be pretty cool to see 2 former coworkers go head-to-head too, have now been great coaches in the SEC.
And as we know, the greatest accolade for either of them is Lane Kiffin getting 2 10-win seasons at FAU.
True.
That's really what matters here more than you can have your national championships and all that nonsense. You get that done in two 10-win seasons in 3 years at FAU. That's legendary stuff
for
right there.
any Ole Miss or Georgia fans who are coming to the comment section and be like, what on earth are you talking about? Dalton is an FAU alum. That's why I say that. Before you freak out in the comment section, that is why Dalton is
that's really what matters.
That's why he's saying that. That's what he's saying. I don't agree with that.
Maybe Kirby's got to come down to Boca and go match it now. See that?
There you go.
Something happened. You know what? Just if Kirby, if you're ever feeling bored up there in Athens, if
Kirby
nobody else comes calling.
If Kirby leaves Georgia for FAU and not Penn State, I'll quit the show. I'm done.
Legendary stuff. They're a mile and a half. The stadium's a mile and a half from the beach. You can see it from the press box. You can see the beach from the press box. Only stadium in the country you can do that.
All right, let's get off the FAU Owls right now because this is the biggest game of the weekend. Let's talk about the Georgia offense, Dalton, which you have against the Ole Miss defense.
Yeah, I'm just curious, how long can Georgia – because we know what kind of team Georgia is at this point. They're a grinded-out, Kirby Smart defense, run game kind of team. I'm just curious how long they can survive with their passing game being just so conservative. Right now, we thought it was breaking out with the vertical throws in the Tennessee game. They went into Tennessee, and Gunnar Stockton was throwing go balls down the field, and it felt like, okay, we finally got the vertical element back in this offense. And then it's kind of scaled back from there. And what you're getting from Gunnar Stockton is a guy who's 99th in the country in big-time throw rate. He's 77th in passing grade on 10-plus yard throws. He has thrown the second most screen passes in the country behind Owen McCown from UTSA, and he's 149. Think about that. There's 136 teams in the FBS, and he's 149th among qualified quarterbacks in average depth of target. I believe it's 6.5 yards. It's a very conservative offense, and we've seen with Georgia now they're going to emphasize the run game. They're a top, I think it's 10 or 12 country in yards after catch. Colby Young and Zachariah Branch on the outside. They're going to take screens. They're going to this is the ultimate right now manufacturing offense team. They know what they are. They're going to play complementary football. It's almost, I'm sure some people in Georgia will probably take offense to this, but it's kind of the East Coast version of what I'm seeing from BYU right now, where we're just going to play complementary football and we're not going to screw it up and we're going to play good defense, and whatever we get on offense, it's going to be just enough to win ball games.
You should not be insulted by that, too. BYU is an awesome football team.
They are an awesome football team, but you know the standard is the standard at Georgia. So, I mean, but it's just this thing of they are not offensively flashy at all, right? So I think for a team like Auburn last week, or even Tennessee earlier, that game earlier was kind of the outlier we're seeing, but the Alabama game, right, 24-21, Georgia is just going to drag you into their kind of fight at this point. That's what's going to happen. They're going to rely on the run defense and not giving up too many explosives, but they're also just still 6 games in, halfway through the season. They're just not that explosive on offense. So Ole Miss, I think the big thing is going to be especially the screen game and out on the edges, making open field tackles, not allowing them to win after the catch. And honestly, maybe you take some chances and see if you can force Gunnar Stockton to throw it downfield. He showed he could do it once in the Tennessee game, but then 3 games since, we really haven't seen it again. We haven't seen this team get explosive. So how long can Georgia go without necessarily leaning much on, because last week 10-plus yard throws against Auburn, and Auburn has the second worst coverage grade in the country. On those throws, he was 4 for 14. So there's just not too much of a downfield element. They're going to beat you in a very conservative manner on offense.
I'm looking at Lane Kiffin and Trinidad Chambliss, who are not very conservative on offense, against a Georgia defense that's kind of been struggling in pass defense this year. Georgia's defense has been phenomenal against the run this year, the 3rd best run defense grade in all of college football. But the Bulldogs have had serious issues defending opposing passing games this year. They allow .095 EPA per pass. That's only 99th in college football. They're 68th in coverage grade this year, and the 5th lowest pressure rate in the Power 4 this year too. And even those numbers are buoyed against games against teams, I should say, like Marshall, Austin Peay, Kentucky, and Auburn that really struggled to throw the football. Against legitimate passing attacks like Tennessee and Alabama, Georgia has only a 54.2 coverage grade and a 57.1 pass rush grade too. Now that could be an issue in this game against a legitimate Ole Miss passing attack headlined by quarterback Trinidad Chambliss. 80.8 passing grade this year. That's 25th among all quarterbacks in the country. Ole Miss is also 16th in receiving grade in the country too. However, I will say Trinidad Chambliss was not very good this past week against Washington State. A season-low 54.2 passing grade against the Cougars. He committed his first 2 turnover-worthy plays of the season against Washington State, which is obviously not a great opponent they're playing either, and Ole Miss barely escaped with a win in that game too. So, yes, Georgia's pass defense has not been very good, especially against really good opponents this year like Tennessee and Alabama, but also Trinidad Chambliss has to bounce back after his not a great performance last week against Washington State.
No, he does need to bounce back. He wasn't his best last week, and I think a big part of that was Ole Miss not finishing drives, especially early in the game. Things tightened down in the red zone, and Ole Miss, I think there's times where we've seen that they have struggled to finish drives and put 7s up instead of 3s, right? So I think that's going to be a big thing is Ole Miss finishing drives, and I think just Chambliss, he was just a little bit off, and then all of a sudden I think Ole Miss realized they were in a football game that they didn't think would be one going into the day as, what was it, were they a 32-point favorite? In that game, something crazy like that. All of a sudden, they were in a football game, and you felt kind of the shock factor. And Lane Kiffin was worried about it. Coming off a bye week, noon start, Washington State, out of conference. He was worried about it, and they came out like it was a trap game. So I'm going to cut him a little bit of slack for that, right? It's not necessarily excusable, but I'm going to cut him some slack. The reason Chambliss could have success is because Georgia still has the 5th lowest pass rushing grade in the Power 4. They're just not getting pressure with their defensive line. 6 sacks this year. 5 of them from linebackers. 1 sack from their defensive line this year, halfway through the season. So Chambliss is going to have time. I think is a very interesting battle between Chambliss and even Kewan Lacey in the backfield. And then you have C.J. Allen and Raylan Wilson at linebacker cleaning everything up. I think you're going to see a whole lot of spies on Chambliss. They do not want him getting north and south as a scrambler. That was something that really hurt LSU when Ole Miss played them. So I think this game, for Ole Miss, I really think it just comes down to Chambliss bouncing back and playing great football. If he does, it feels like he has been the biggest reason for their success, and he would have to be the biggest reason that they would win this football game.
Ultimately, Dalton, in the biggest game of the weekend, matchup between 2 top 10 teams right now, who will win between Georgia and Ole Miss?
I think Ole Miss, they would need to have Chambliss and Lacey play outstanding games, I think, to win this game. And last year, they really won this game with their defense. Princely Amon Mielen, remember Jared Ivey dominating off the edges, and Carson Beck just stood no chance in the pocket. Ole Miss doesn't have a pass rush like that this year. So I think they're going to have to be even better on offense, and that just comes down to me. Chambliss and Lacey, especially those two against the linebackers, is a big battle. I think Georgia's just so good at playing to their identity in games like this and just scratching and clawing their way through these games, especially with the run defense, I think is going to be a big factor. I don't think this time, unless Chambliss just plays a Heisman moment type of game, I don't think Ole Miss has the horses in the trenches on both sides this time, O-line and D-line, especially the drop-off in the D-line from last year. I think you get kind of another close to the vest game for Georgia, but I don't know that Ole Miss in the trenches, especially their O-line also, can really match the physicality. I'm going to take Georgia 24-17.
Yeah, I have Georgia as well, 28-27. I think this game could come down to the wire. Both quarterbacks could have success against these defenses. I'll trust Kirby Smart to win this game at home, though, and avenge last year's loss, but like my score prediction shows, I mean, it's going to be an incredible ball game. I can see either team winning this game, but I think Georgia will pull it out at home with a 1-point win over the Ole Miss Rebels. All right, another Rebels. Up next, we have the UNLV Rebels at Boise State, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on FS1. This is the biggest game of the year in the Mountain West Conference. Boise State and UNLV have met in the last two Mountain West Championship games. Boise State won both of those titles. They could be on a collision course for a third straight Mountain West title game this year. Boise State is currently minus 150 to win the Mountain West right now on DraftKings Sportsbook. UNLV is plus 425 to win the Mountain West. They're second in odds behind Boise State. The next closest team is San Diego State at plus 700 on DraftKings right now. It does seem likely, I will say right now, it does seem likely that the Group of 5 representative in the playoff this year will come from the American Conference, but UNLV should not be counted out in that race right now. They're currently a perfect 6-0 on the season. A win at Boise State would go a long, long way in showing that Dan Mullen's squad is a legitimate contender to make the 12-team playoff this year.
And it would at least keep Boise State alive as well. And the top of this Mountain West is pretty competitive. You mentioned San Diego State. They had a big win over Cal earlier this year. They don't feel like they're out of it. Hawaii's 5-2. Fresno State's 5-2. So I think the top of this is pretty interesting, and there are some other games that these two teams are going to have to battle through. But this has become an annual tradition, really, where this is the biggest game of the year in the Mountain West. I think you've got another really good one between two really good offenses. But I don't know that it fully eliminates UNLV if they lose, because that UCLA win is looking better every week, right? But Boise, certainly, if they get their third loss, they're not going to the playoff, even if they come back to win this conference. So I think the stakes are very high. The stakes are always very high when these two teams play, and we've got another big one. And I find that spread a little bit interesting there, considering UNLV is, well, undefeated with some pretty big wins on the dock. So interesting, very interesting game, as it always is between these two.
You have the Boise State offense in this game. I think we're both going to look at the run game, considering both offenses are kind of built around that rushing attack right now.
Both offenses run the hell out of the football. Boise State's no exception, right? I mean, the entire idea of Boise State's offense is we want to dominate on the offensive line. We want to dominate with the backs. They don't have Ashton Ginty this year, but they do have Sire Gaines and Dylan Riley, who are both really, really good in the backfield. It's just more of a committee this year. But getting behind Cage Casey and these tight ends and this big offensive line, I think that's obviously where Boise wants to live. Keep Maddox Madsen out of non-play action and obvious drop-back situations. Now, this is probably the reason that Boise is kind of heavily favored here, is because UNLV, even in their wins, and you saw it once again last week against Air Force, boy, the run defense is a struggle. 109th in the country in run defense grade, 130th in yards per carry allowed, 135th, second worst in yards before contact per carry, and 131st. They're allowing the sixth highest explosive run rate in the country. Even in their wins, and there are a lot of high-scoring wins, UNLV has shown that, I think especially at defensive tackle, between the tackles at defensive tackle and their linebackers, really just struggle to slow it down, especially when you spread them out a little bit. It wouldn't even shock me if Boise State got in the gun and ran from the shotgun a little bit and kind of formation them out wide a little bit, because UNLV just has issues with gap integrity and spacing, stopping runs between the tackles. So I think Boise State's going to go into this game and tell their offensive line, look, we don't got to do anything different than we do any other week. Our defense, we'll try to get a couple stops. It's going to be a high-flying game, but we don't feel like we have to get outside of our identity. We can walk in here and run the football with these two backs. Outside of, look, the two games where they have run the 2 games where they weren't able to run the ball, they played USF and Notre Dame, 2 really good teams, ran the ball 32% of the time, fell behind 4.2 yards per carry. Their 4 wins, they're ripping off 6 yards a carry. So not a whole lot changes. It's not Ash and Jinty, but the strategy's the same. You got 2 good backs instead of just one Superman back there, but they're still really good with Riley and Gaines. UNLV's got to tighten up in run defense, or they're going to have a big problem.
Yeah, I'm looking at the UNLV run game as well against Boise State's run defense. UNLV's run game has been one of the most difficult to stop in all of college football this year. They average 4.4 yards after contact per carry. That's second to only USC in the entire country right now. Their running back, Jaden Thomas, has a 90.6 rushing grade this season, second only to Ahmad Hardy among all running backs in the country. And their quarterback, Anthony Calandria, is 9th in the nation this year with 256 rushing yards after contact. A majority of his carries are by design as well. UNLV runs a lot of read option to confuse defenses. Boise State is 94th in team run defense grade this year, and they're also 94th in yards per carry allowed this year. And Boise State has allowed quarterbacks to run for at least 70 yards against them in 3 of their 6 games this year. They'll need to be very assignment sound in run defense this week, or they risk UNLV running all over them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's really the same, and UNLV's going to do it. UNLV's going to do it with pace and read option. They have the second highest rushing grade in the country when they use read options, and they use it a lot. Calandria's been great on the ground and complemented well with his arm too, right? Obviously struggled last year at Virginia, but goes to a situation under Dan Mullen where he's comfortable and he's doing a lot of the dual threat things they need from the quarterback in their offense, and Dan Mullen's always had those dual threats, right? So, it was a competition coming into the year between him and Alex Orji, the Michigan transfer. Calandria, as the better passer, won the job. And the fact that, yes, the running game is elite, absolutely, but the fact that they can also get two-dimensional and Calandria can win with his arm too, big factor in this offense and a huge reason they're such a high-flying team.
So ultimately, Dalton, in a game that's a rematch of the last 2 Mountain West title games, it could be a third straight this year with these 2 programs, in a game that could be pretty massive in determining the Group of 5 representative in the college football playoff. Who will win between Boise State and UNLV?
Couple big things for Boise State here. Number one, they've scored at least 41 points in each of their 4 wins, right? So they're putting up points when they're not playing, obviously, a team that's better than them in Notre Dame, or, well, maybe obviously a team that's better than them in USF on the road in Tampa is also, right, when they scored 7 in each of those. But you talk about a team averaging 47 points a game in the 4 wins, right? The other thing, too, for Boise here, we got to keep in mind, they haven't lost a game on that field since week 2 of 2023. And that was a 2-point loss to UCF. So, I mean, it's been a long time since Boise lost on the blue turf here. I think that spread's a bit wide. I think this is going to be a better game than that. I think UNLV and Dan Mullen in this offense, all the creative looks they give you, it's going to be another high-scoring game. I mean, I got to think the over in the UNLV game is hit just about every week this year. We'd have to check that. But I'm going to take it high-scoring again, but I do like Sire Gaines and Dylan Riley and Boise State's ability to run on what's really been a porous front 7 for UNLV. 41-34 Broncos. Give me the Rebels to get their first loss, and then we'll have some different playoff conversations later on about all that.
I have also a Boise State 7-point win. I have a 34-27 Boise State over UNLV. I think both teams will rely on their run games in this one against 2 vulnerable run defenses. I do think Boise State at home, though, will ultimately win out. They'll spoil UNLV's undefeated season, but UNLV could still get revenge on Boise State later on in December in the Mountain West title game. But I do think Boise State at home will win this game 34-27 over UNLV. All right, next up, major Big 12 game. Number 7, Texas Tech at Arizona State, 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. It's the Big 12 favorite this year against the reigning champs, in the Big 12 last year. Texas Tech has been easily the best team in the Big 12 this season. They're 7th in the latest AP poll, 8 spots higher than anyone else in the conference right now. Texas Tech also has minus 175 odds to win the Big 12 this year, according to DraftKings Sportsbook. The only school in the country with better odds to win their conference is Miami in the ACC, and that's only by barely. It's minus 180 for Miami right now. Texas Tech, again, is minus 175 to win the Big 12. Now Texas Tech goes on the road to take on the reigning Big 12 champion in Arizona State. The Sun Devils are 4-2 this year, coming off a 42-10 loss to Utah. But, of course, it should be noted, Sam Leavitt, the star quarterback for Arizona State, did not play in that game. He's questionable this week. We've got some breaking news right now, Dalton, though, that Sam Leavitt is taking first-team reps in practice right now, so that is great news for the Sun Devils. Texas Tech quarterback Baron Morton is also day-to-day right now because he hurt his right leg this past week against Kansas. So both teams have injuries to their starting quarterback right now that could be a major factor in this Saturday ball game. But Dalton, it's going to be an awesome ball game between, again, the Big 12 favorite this year and last year's champion.
Yeah, I mean, interesting situation, especially with Leavitt, because he practiced all week last week, and then it seemed like, by Friday, all of a sudden he was doubtful and then out for the game, and really, and then you got Jeff Sims, who didn't stand too much of a chance against that Utah team the way they were playing on Saturday. But no, it's interesting. I do think Texas Tech, between the two teams, if both of their starting quarterbacks were to miss this game, I would feel much better about Texas Tech and what we've seen from Will Hammond than what we've seen from Jeff Sims. So I think Arizona State, really, to have a shot in this game, to go out there at home and win this game, they need Sam Leavitt out there, right? They need him so badly because this defense, you need to be on your A-plus game against this defense, and we have yet to see a team. Kansas had a little bit of a stretch, probably a quarter and a half against this Texas Tech defense where you go, okay, wait a minute, they have a shot, and then they got shut right back down because of this pass rush. So you need everything you can get to beat Texas Tech right now. Arizona State desperately needs Sam Leavitt for this game.
You have the Texas Tech offense against Arizona State's defense. What should we know when they have the ball?
So a big part of the reason that I'd feel good about Texas Tech regardless, and I mentioned this last week against Kansas, they wound up putting a school record output as far as rushing goes, I believe, or at least most in a long time. This run game. I mean, the fact that, look, and we thought it might take a hit when we heard Quentin Joyner was out for the season before the season even started, but you look at what this run game has done with Jacoby Williams and Cameron Dickey, the star of the show last week in the backfield, and then the quarterbacks get involved a little bit in this too. I'll get in that in a second, but Texas Tech, just a summary of what their run game and how productive as it's been. 7th in the nation in rushing grade, 12th in yards per carry, 11th in yards after contact per carry, 12th in explosive run rate. By all means, you go with those numbers, that's pretty basic. They're a top 12 running game in college football, which is pretty darn good considering the weapons they still have on the outside. And then you look at a top 5 defense in college football too. They got a little bit of everything, but a couple of things with this run game. One, it's not all that complicated. Ton of inside zone. Little bit of counter, they'll pull the guards around some. The other thing I think to keep an eye on, Terrence Carter. I know we talked the Louisiana transfer at tight end. We talk about him a lot with his receiving ability and his ability to win after the catch, right? He's been outstanding as a blocker this year, and there's a lot of these plays where if you want to know where the football's going, it's behind Terrence Carter, and even if you know it's coming, he's a lot better blocker than I thought he was. They get Carter and these tight ends on the field sometimes, and they really start mauling you with extra guys. So the other big factor too, I think, if it's Will Hammond, I've got an interesting stat for you here. This year, when Baron Morton's on the field, Texas Tech runs for 5.3 yards a carry. Pretty solid, right? We don't hate that at all. 5.3 solid. When Will Hammond is on the field, and I mentioned this to you when we were watching them against Utah, I said I would leave him in there because you can feel the effect of having a little bit better athlete. When Will Hammond is on the field, they run for 7.5 yards a carry. So if Hammond does have to play, and we saw this last week against Kansas. Neither of them threw the ball particularly great against Kansas. It is what it is, right? And especially for Hammond, tough spot coming in as a backup again. But the run game gets even better when Hammond's on the field because he's a better athlete, and the option game here matters more, and the design keep game matters more with than it would with Morton. I think they could win. They could win this game with either quarterback. I think that is possible, more so than Arizona State could win with their backup, because Hammond, and even Hammond, I think even in a Wildcat situation, you can put him in there and give you option looks. This run game has got options, and they're really productive and they're really good up front.
Yeah, I'm looking at Arizona State and just really whether or not Sam Lev is able to go in this game. That really is a determining factor on whether or not Arizona State even has a chance to beat Texas Tech in this game. He missed last week's game against Utah, and the Sun Devils only put up 10 points on the Utes on offense. His backup, Jeff Sims, only completed 47% of his passes in the rain, with only a 55.1 passing grade against Utah in that game too. Yes, it was pouring. There's a lot of awful conditions in that game too, but it's hard to just blame that for Jeff Sims struggling in that game, because he's never even had a 60 passing grade in any of his 5 prior seasons either in college football. It's kind of who Jeff Sims is, honestly, right now. Sam Levitt was taking first-team reps, though, in practice this week, so hopefully Sam Levitt may be ready to go for this Saturday against Texas Tech. But even if Sam Levitt is back, how close he is to being 100% will also be a major question mark in this game, because he was seen wearing a boot on his right foot last week against Utah. He'll need his elite mobility this week against Texas Tech's defense. Right now, the Red Raiders lead the nation with a 92.2 team pass rush grade and a 96.4 run defense grade this year. And they also lead the Power 4 with a 92.9 coverage grade. So the best pass rush grade, the best run defense grade in the country, and the best coverage grade in the Power 4, and I believe second in the nation in coverage grade this year. Sam Levitt has an 84.4 rushing grade against pressure this year. That's second among all quarterbacks in college football. So if you get pressure on Sam Levitt, you better bring him down, or else he could scramble and run all over you. But if he's unable to scramble this game with the injury on his right foot, that's a major advantage for Texas Tech, who already has one of the best defenses in college football. So yes, the question is Sam Levitt ready to play in this game? Second question is, okay, what does the mobility look like in this game? Because he's going to need to run against the Texas Tech defense.
Oh, I mean, you've got, we talk so much about Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor for Miami. Look, Romello Height and David Bailey are 2 and 3 and in PFF grade in the country for defensive ends. Just ridiculous stuff they're putting out. I mean, you just look at what they're doing. So you've got 2 of the 3 best edge defenders in college football. You've got the highest graded linebacker in college football, and you've got a very much improved coverage unit that staggered a bit last week against Kansas, but found it again. And then again, the run game on Texas Tech's offensive side really started to control the pace again. But no, you need, if you're going to beat this Texas Tech team, especially offensively, you need everything you've got. And you need Sam Levitt at something close to 100%. You need the adrenaline shot. You need something there, because it is going to take a heroic effort from Levitt, even if he is 100%. And if he's not, boy, you start to worry a little bit.
If he can't run and if he's only sitting in the pocket back there, he's in big trouble.
This Texas Tech defense is, I think, far and away the best unit that any team has in the Big 12.
Yep.
On either side of the ball. So it's going to take everything they've got. And Levitt, he's got to be out there. But again, we won't know this till later in the week. He practiced last week, and then he was doubtful, and then he was out. We'll see what happens this time around.
Yeah, like I said, if his mobility is compromised in this game, he's only a pocket passer against Texas Tech, they're in big, big trouble. With those two, Romello Height and David Bailey, who I think both could be first-round picks at edge rusher in the draft, are right now, like Dalton said, second and third in PFF grade this year, only behind Ruben Bain among edge rushers. I know Skylar Gill-Howard suffered a really bad injury, but even the D tackles that Texas Tech has are really, really good too. Sam Levitt needs his mobility in this game. So you need him out there, and you also need him very mobile in this one too, for him to run around and make some heroic plays. This is the game. We've talked a lot about Dalton, Sam Levitt playing too much hero ball for them. This is the game where he needs to play hero ball, I would say, for Arizona State.
Gonna need it, and gonna need to find to control the pace of it a bit with Raleek Brown in their own running game. That's really where Arizona State has played their best football this year, is when they've gotten Brown going, when they've gotten Levitt going as an option threat, and then the scrambling's also always good, and then you work to Jordan Tyson and the rest. But no, Arizona State, they've got a tall task on their hands. They sure do, and I think running the football is going to be big. And you mentioned it, the mobility. Well, you need to be a dynamite athlete to get away from David Bailey and Romello Height. That's for sure.
Yeah. So we have Drake Holiday in the chat, who is, of course, a noted Arizona State fan. He's taking the Sun Devils to win this game, Dalton. Are you also taking Arizona State, or do you think Texas Tech continues their undefeated season?
So I'm throwing this score out there, assuming Sam Leavitt plays. And it's still on the road, and Texas Tech has their own quarterback questions, right? And we talk about this run game. And look, Arizona State's run defense is very predicated on their linebackers, right? Jordan Crook, Keyshawn Elliott, Martell Hughes, those guys playing A-plus football. They will have to as well to win this game. But even with Sam Leavitt in there, I think Texas Tech is the better team, and I think this Arizona State offense, it's just a different animal playing against this Red Raiders unit. This defensive line, Jacob Rodriguez, you know me, he's one of my favorite players in the country. He just flies all over the place. And you talk about this, you talk about a guy chasing after Sam Leavitt, it's going to be Jacob Rodriguez, right? So assuming he's healthy and Leavitt's going, and honestly, it doesn't matter as much to me which quarterback goes for Texas Tech. I have faith in both of them. And if Hammond plays, I just expect more of the run game. I'm going to take Texas Tech 31-20. And if for any reason it is Jeff Sims, I have no idea how the Sun Devils will score. Yeah. I don't know how. They scored 10 points at Utah last week. I have no idea how they will score if Jeff Sims plays. If Leavitt plays, I'll go 31-20. It'll be wider than. It'll look more like last week against Utah. What was that, 42-10?
Yeah.
It'll look more like that if Sims is in there, if Leavitt misses this game.
Yeah. I have Texas Tech winning this game as well, 34-17. Like I said, even if Sam Leavitt plays, it's unknown how effective his mobility will be in this one. The Red Raiders defense right now, I would argue, is at least a top 3 defense in the country. I think along with Miami and Ohio State right now, the Texas Tech is right up there with them too. They show why they're one of the elite units in the sport with another dominant showing against Arizona State in this game. So 34-17, I have Texas Tech taking down Arizona State in this one. Before we move on to the final 4 games of this preview, and of course, the upsets of the week at the very end of the show, which again, keep throwing your upsets in the chat right now. We'll get the massive parlay at the end of the show. Before we move on, though, got to talk about the sponsor of the show. That is BetterHelp. BetterHelp therapists have helped over 5 million people worldwide on their mental health journeys. That's millions of stories, millions of journeys, and behind every one is a therapist who showed up, listened, and helped someone take a step forward. Moments in therapy, like the right question, a safe space to cry, or a small win, can change lives. This World Mental Health Day, BetterHelp is honoring those connections and the therapists who make them possible while showing how easy it is to get guidance from a licensed therapist online with BetterHelp. So obviously, use BetterHelp. It's fantastic. We want people to realize the right therapist can change everything. BetterHelp has 12 plus years experience in matching people to the right therapist. BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the U.S. BetterHelp does the initial matching work for you so you can focus on your therapy goals. A short questionnaire helps identify your needs and preferences, and our 10-plus years of experience and industry-leading match fulfillment rate means you typically get it right the first time. If you aren't happy with your match, switch to a different therapist at any time from BetterHelp's tailored recommendations. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. And it works with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session based on over 1.7 million client reviews. We're celebrating the therapists who've helped millions of people take a step forward. If you're ready to find the right therapist for you, BetterHelp can help you start that journey. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/PFF. That's betterhelp.com/PFF. All right, final 4 games in this preview. First of those 4 is a massive one. Number 11, Tennessee at number 6, Alabama, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC. Alabama looking for its 4th top 20 victory in as many weeks. So obviously Alabama started off with a loss to Florida State this year, but they have been on a scorching hot streak since then. The Crimson Tide have won their last 5 games, including their last 3 games over number 5 Georgia, number 16 Vanderbilt, and number 14 Missouri this past weekend. Alabama could win its 4th top 20 victory in the last month over number 11 Tennessee this week.
Yeah, no, I mean, such huge stakes, right? I mean, two teams with one loss, two teams with obvious playoff aspirations, and two teams, that I think are riding, like you mentioned, a lot of momentum, especially offensively. I mean, look at the way, especially the two quarterbacks you're playing in, Ty Simpson and Joey Aguilar. They've both been fantastic this year. And look, Alabama last week, get out of Missouri with a close win. Tennessee getting out against Arkansas with a closer than we thought win, and maybe some defensive things we need to talk about with them. But no, I mean, two teams that it always feels like a big game with these two, but this is as big as it gets right here. I feel because one of them is going to come out of this game with a second loss, and like you've talked about, there's that 3-loss thing where maybe Alabama's got an argument at 93 if and when they get there also, but. I think this is a big opportunity for both to put a signature win, and for Alabama, another signature win on the ledger. They've already beaten Georgia. They've already beaten Vanderbilt. They've already beaten Missouri. All of a sudden, I know they lost to Florida State. That doesn't look great now, but that's as far as stacking wins, that's as good a resume as you could start to build in college football.
Definitely. Dalton, we have the same exact matchup. And this week, we have the offensive line against the pass rush. You have Tennessee's offense against Alabama's defense, which we know in the Volunteers of the ball.
I mean, and that's the thing, is the star of the show for these two teams has been the two quarterbacks, right? And I think the big thing that we constantly talk about is clean pockets, right? You have to be able to pressure these quarterbacks in order to force them into mistakes, or they're just going to kill you. They're going to put up 35, 38, 45 points on you. So I think that's the case. Look, Alabama, they're 114th in the country in pass rush grade. It's the one biggest weakness to me on their defense is that they just don't get after the passer very well. Other than LT Overton, this is what concerned me coming into the year. The one thing that concerned me with Alabama's defense coming in was who do they have beyond LT Overton? Now, Yancey Pierre has been obviously solid for them. He's made some plays, but they just don't have the ability to put consistent pressure on the quarterback right now, and that's a problem when you're facing a guy in Joey Aguilar who's been absolutely outstanding in clean pockets. 6th best clean pocket passing grade in the country this season. 9.6 yards per attempt from a clean pocket, top 25 in the country. 7 big-time throws, 0 turnover-worthy plays. We always worried about, at App State, okay, ball security. Can you prove to us that you can be secure with the football? Well, if you leave him clean in the pocket, he's going to be secure with the football. So I think once again, look, Alabama, they're playing a run of really good offenses and great teams and great quarterbacks. You got to find a way to pressure them, or you're going to just find yourself in a shootout where it's Ty Simpson versus Joey Aguilar. And you know what happens in those shootouts? A lot of times, just whoever has the ball last, and whoever can just win, or even if it's overtime, win the coin flip, score first, whatever. But if neither team is going to get a pass rush, you're going to go on the other side of this, then you're going to get a high-scoring game. Because these two quarterbacks, when they're allowed to stand back there, they got all the options in the world out there. When you look at Tennessee with Chris Brazzell and those guys outside, and they got 3 good backs they can run the football with too. They've got balance, and obviously in Josh Heupel's offense, there's a lot of play action, there's a lot of RPO in it. But the idea now is Alabama, to me, with their offense kind of settled in now, the biggest concern is can they rush the passer? Can they get after really good quarterbacks to disturb them in the pocket?
I have Alabama's offensive line against Tennessee's pass rush in this game. Ty Simpson, who Walt in the chat right now is saying maybe his Raiders might be the next quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders. Maybe.
Oh, maybe. Looking past Geno already. Man.
I'll tell you what, that guy is launching up draft boards right now because he has been phenomenal for the Crimson Tide this year. Currently second in odds to win the Heisman Trophy on DraftKings Sportsbook at plus 380 right now. Largely due to how lethal that guy is from a clean pocket this year. 92.9 PFF grade when kept clean this year. That's 3rd among all quarterbacks in the country. He has 15 touchdown passes from a clean pocket and only 1 interception from a clean pocket this year. And Alabama's offensive line has been really good at granting him clean pockets this year. They're 26th in team pass blocking grade this season with a 76 pass blocking grade. But that offensive line will be tested this week against Tennessee. 4 different defensive linemen for the Volunteers this year have at least 4 sacks already this season. Joshua Josephs and Tyree West are each among the top 15 Power 4 edge rushers this season in pass rush grade. Tennessee has the 9th best pass rush grade in all of college football. For reference, Missouri has the 6th best pass rush grade in the country, and the Crimson Tide had their lowest pass blocking grade of this season this past week against Missouri with only a 56 0.6 pass blocking grade. So we've seen Alabama's offensive line that's been great all year, but against some of the elite defensive lines, they've had some issues against them. Ty Simpson really needs those clean pockets to thrive. Tennessee needs to make sure they don't give him those clean pockets in this game.
No, it doesn't get easier. I want to mention on the offensive side, too, Tennessee 10th themselves in pass blocking grade. So a top 10 pass protecting team and a top 10 pass rush team. And I like that you mentioned that about last week against Alabama. That was a big concern, right? Blocking Damon Wilson and Zion Young from Missouri. Doesn't get any easier. When you got Josh Josephs, elite player, Tyree West is really good, Caleb Herring can give you some juice off the edge. This is going to be the concern once again. Is A, is it the rotation or who's it going to be at right tackle? And B, big-time matchup with Caden Proctor. He's going to see some star players on the other side in this game, and then we'll see if Caden Proctor gets the football. I know you're giving me that. You're giving me that look of like, hey, when's Caden Proctor getting the football?
3 straight games now he's gotten the ball?
Is it 3? 2 or 3?
I think it's 3.
Did he get it in the Vandy game?
Oh, I'm trying to remember. I don't think so.
That's
the Georgia game, he got it again. Hey, wait, Georgia
and last week.
Okay, maybe not.
I don't think he got one in the Vandy game.
I think he did. Didn't he get 1 carry? I think I'll look it up real quick. I think he did.
Yeah, maybe you could find. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's 3 in a row. Either way, we got to start.
Should have 100 carries.
We got to start getting rushing props on Caden Proctor.
Especially, dude, Jam Miller's questionable for this game.
Oh yeah, there you
go. Caden Proctor could be start RB1 this week against.
He was wide receiver 1. He was QB1. Now he's the best runner.
Anyone doesn't know, we're actually going to do on Friday. We're going to do a awards show, the midseason award show, and All-American show too. I thought about Caden Proctor for Paul Hornung Award. I'll say that, most versatile player in the country.
That's reasonable. I don't hate it.
I don't know if I could do for 3. He has 3 carries this year. So
if he scores a touchdown in this game, you could think about it.
He's had carries in Georgia, Vanderbilt, Missouri. He's had 3 carries.
I don't hate it. Okay. All right.
So hopefully a 4th straight.
He's at least a finalist. He has to be.
yeah, he would be.
Absolutely. But no, I mean that's going to be the big thing. Who can get after the other quarterback? And if the answer is neither, then you're going to get a high-flying game down in Tuscaloosa.
Definitely. All right, Dalton, a massive, massive game in the SEC this week. 2 top 15 teams in the country. Will Alabama get their 4th straight top 20 win, or will Tennessee deliver their 2nd loss of the year to Alabama?
This is a tough one because I do think there was some vulnerability shown off the edges if Tennessee can get the pass rush going with Josephs and West especially, but Tennessee's defense, I don't think on the back end of it has been that consistent this year. Close game against Arkansas, and really in a lot of their games, I think their pass defense when they don't get to the quarterback hasn't been great. Alabama's going to need to stop the run as well with Star Thomas and Deshaun Bishop and those guys in the backfield. I think at this point, he's on such a run and this game is in Alabama, I think, which helps a lot. I just can't bet against Ty Simpson. I do think this is going to be high scoring. I do think Alabama at some point has to re-involve Ryan Williams in this offense. He didn't get a touch last week. Got to get Ryan Williams involved again. You've got Jeremy Bernard, obviously. There's other guys playing well. I'm going to take Alabama in a high scoring barn burner. I think you're going to get a lot of points in this game, 42-35.
Our guy Andrew Harbaugh in the chat goes, Caden Proctor's not the Wildcat, he's a Thundercat.
Oh, love that.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
We've been looking for a nickname. There it is.
Well, I mean, but the problem is it already has one, isn't it? Crispy.
Oh, I like crispy too.
Yeah, it's crispy.
It's at least.
I mean, we can use that. We can use Thundercat too.
I like Thundercat,
but since it officially came out that it's crispy for Krispy Kreme, that's just fantastic. That's great stuff. So get the crispy package going. We're gonna need over-unders on Caden Proctor rushing.
He's had 1 in the last 3 games.
Right.
He almost scored this past week too against Missouri.
Oh yeah.
He's gotten close to scoring twice this year.
No, he's a half step from being JJ Pegues. I'm telling you right now. That would have been my pick for the whole. If Travis Hunter didn't exist, it would have been JJ Pegues. It would have been. This is my new JJ Pegues.
Maybe
I need this.
Offensive tackle 1, maybe fullback 1 in the 2026 draft this year too. I do have Alabama winning as well. I have Alabama winning 28-27. Again, a 1-point win. I cannot describe to you how difficult this slate was for Dalton and I to pick. I have so many 1-point games because I just have no idea who's going to win. I think Alabama pulled out at home, though, 28-27. It should be a duel between both quarterbacks in this game. And really, can either team get a pass rush going in this game, too? I trust Ty Simpson to edge out Joey Aguilar at home, though, and deliver Alabama's 4th straight top 20 win. But it's going to be a terrific, terrific ball game. I think 8.5 is way too big of a spread for this game. I really do. I think.
Yeah, I just think at any point, I mean, you could just to me, you walk into this game and you go, you could get a touchdown on any given play.
Yep.
You really could. I mean, and not to say that the two defenses don't have potential to do some good things. I think Tennessee's pass rush is a threat. I do think Alabama's secondary is obviously very good. But at the end of the day, I mean, the way these two quarterbacks have been rolling, and if you don't get a pass rush on either of them, you have a serious problem.
Yep. Before we move on, I want to get our Tennessee fan in the studio, Eli. Eli, any thoughts about this top 15 matchup this weekend?
I like the Vols in this one. I was almost going to go ballsy like I did for the Georgia game and pick Tennessee to win for my underdog, but that hurt my heart too bad, so I will not be doing it again. I think Tennessee will cover the 8.5. I think 8.5 is too much, especially with the pass rush struggles from Alabama. It's kind of where Aguilar thrives, so I think they cover, but might throw a little sprinkle on the money line as well.
I think on PFF.com we have a best bets tool from our betting tools that you can check out right now. I believe Tennessee money line is one of the best money lines according to our metrics this week.
I think I did see it as like one of the top 5 or so, top 5 or 6 up there, just because of the value of it. And I think, the other thing you saw, we've talked about Georgia with similar pass rush struggles. Well, when Georgia couldn't rush Joey Aguilar at all, look what he did. He scored 41 points. So, and Bama's pass rush is basically the same, maybe marginally better than Georgia's right now. So it's a big thing. When he's comfortable back there, he can sling it downfield for sure.
Yep. Tennessee plus 260 on the money line at DraftKings Sportsbook right now. Anyone in the chat, just telling you, Dalton and I can't pick it. Eli won't be picking it for the upset parlay. It is available to you guys, though, for the upset parlay if you want to pick it. Plus 260. We'll get to that later on the show. Now that you
told them to do it, now they're definitely.
Well, maybe. I'm just saying.
There's got to be one volunteer fan in the chat who's going to just throw
maybe
it
it's just Eli on a burner account in the chat, maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, another huge game at night. Number 20 USC at number 13 Notre Dame, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on NBC. This game has massive playoff implications for both programs. It's not just the next chapter of a legendary rivalry between USC and Notre Dame. Like I said, it's huge playoff implications for both programs. Notre Dame lost its first 2 games of the year to Miami and Texas A&M by a combined 4 points, but they've won their last 4 games in convincing fashion. But one more loss for Notre Dame will pretty much kill any hopes of returning to the college football playoff. And considering USC is the only currently ranked team left on Notre Dame's schedule right now, a win on Saturday night would set the Fighting Irish up beautifully for the rest of the season. USC has a little bit more breathing room than Notre Dame right now. They're 5-1 on the year with a close loss to Illinois and a win over Michigan in their last 2 games. But the Trojans still have number 25 Nebraska and 8th-ranked Oregon remaining on their schedule. So winning on Saturday night against Notre Dame would be massive for them. And it would mean that USC could likely afford to lose one of those 2 games the rest of the year, too, to make the playoffs.
Yeah, several big games remaining for USC, but this would be the signature win of their season, especially after they just couldn't pull off the win at Illinois, couldn't get the last stop that they needed. Imagine what we'd be saying about USC right now if they had finished off that Illinois win. I mean, we would be in a spot right now where this game would almost be a luxury, but not the way it goes. So I think you get a chance at one of the best out-of-conference wins potentially in the country on the road, similar to what Texas A&M got earlier in the season. Huge game for both teams. And Notre Dame, you mentioned it, likely the biggest test left, right? Because when you look at the rest of this, you're looking at Boston College. Navy's really good, still undefeated, obviously. Pitt, a threat at Pitt. Syracuse and Stanford. We like Notre Dame in those games. At least I do. I know you've got one of them. You might make your upset pick. But, I mean...
As a Syracuse alum, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if only for that reason.
Yeah.
No, I mean, for Notre Dame, this feels like the game.
Yeah.
This feels like, and it's really felt like that the entire way. Boise State, obviously a threat at Arkansas, had a chance to be tough and then just wasn't. But this is the game now for Notre Dame. I would say, honestly, you look at moving forward and you never know. You got to play the games, but this is Notre Dame's season.
Yes.
This game, right? It's not necessarily USC's season. It would be a huge notch in the belt, and it would mean you didn't have to go and beat Oregon. But for Notre Dame, this is the spotlight now. I mean, we'll probably preview their game against Navy, maybe the Pitt game if Pitt stays hot. But No, this is everything. 2025 happens on Saturday for Notre Dame.
We have odds on PFF.com too of a percentage chance to make the playoff. I would love to get our data science team to say what's the percentage chance that Notre Dame wins the game and what's the percentage chance. Obviously, if they lose the game, I'll say 0%. If they win the game, I would be like they're making the playoff. I feel like if they win this game, they're gonna win out the rest of the way. So
can't ever take it for granted, but
yeah,
you do kind of feel like that. Yeah, I mean, again, Navy. Never know. I mean, and they always beat Navy, but Navy's really good.
I would say it's like Notre Dame 0% chance with a loss, 80% chance of the win.
That's probably about right. Because this 3 games, they're just going to win out of the 5 for sure. And then the Navy's probably – at Pitt's a sneaky one the way they're playing. They just went down to Florida State and won. Mason Heinschel, kind of like what's going on there. That's a sneaky one, but the way their offense and everything's rolling, I mean, you have to like it in their last 5, but got to get through the big one.
Yep. Yeah, huge game for both programs. Dalton, you have the Notre Dame offense in this one. What should we know when C.J. Carr and the Fighting Irish and Jeremiah Love have the ball in this game?
I think it's the idea that they have even more balance than last year. We know about Jeremiah Love. We know about Jadarian Price, but it's really more to me, and we're going to talk about these are 2 of the best pass-catching units in the country. And Notre Dame, we don't usually say that about, but when you look at the way Jordan Faison has stepped up lately, Will Pauling, Malachi Fields, coming into the year, we thought it'd be Jaden Greathouse, and he's been kind of a non-factor, those 3 guys. And then Eli Raridan at tight end, they've really gotten going. You just look in totality at this Notre Dame receiving unit and how many different options they have and really good ones. They're 3rd in the nation in receiving grade. They're 2nd in explosive pass rate, top 5 in yards per catch and yards per route run, and they're not just doing it after the catch, just, C.J. Carr making these easy 5-yard outs, and these guys are teeing up. They're 11th in average depth of target. So C.J. Carr is throwing downfield to receivers that are getting themselves open. This is as good a receiving core as I can remember Notre Dame having. You got transfer guys in there in Fields and Pauling that have really helped out. Faison has stepped up big time in this hot stretch. And then again, like clockwork, Notre Dame's got a great tight end in Raridan who's gotten going down the field too. And USC, I got to be honest with you, offense is great. We know this. Jade Mayava, the whole bit. You're going over that part. I don't know about this defense, Max. I mean, you look at the first 3 games. You had 2 easy ones, and then Purdue. Their last 3 games, all right, since week 4, 126th in the country in PFF grade. 11th lowest graded defense. 107th in run defense grade. Their coverage grade in their last 3 games is a 51.3. And you're talking about Michigan State, Illinois, and Michigan, right? And the Michigan game, it was still under a 70. It wasn't great. Michigan couldn't finish drives and score points either, and they lost Justice Haynes. I still don't know that USC isn't just one-dimensional here, and especially out there, the cornerbacks. That's a struggling group right now. I think they had a bottom 2 or 3, or maybe bottom like 7 or 8 actually coverage grade. They're one of the worst coverage grades in the entire country for the season. They're cornerbacks. So I think there is an opportunity here once again for Notre Dame to put up a boatload of points. I think C.J. Carr, I think this USC defense, they have a handful of good players. Anthony Lucas I like off the edge, Eric Gentry at linebacker, Kamari Ramsey and Bishop Fitzgerald are probably the 2 best players at safety. But to me, when I watch their defense lately, it's the corners. It's those guys on the outside. And then you've got Jordan Faison coming at you, Malachi Fields, Will Pauling flying all over the place. It's the toughest matchup yet for a USC secondary, especially that's already been struggling.
I love the USC safeties. I think Kamari Ramsey is an unbelievable talent. It could be a 2nd or 3rd round pick in the draft. And I think Bishop Fitzgerald, we'll get to our All-American team on Friday. He's going to be one of the All-American safeties for me
Well, you
year.
Got 5 picks already?
5 picks already. Best coverage grade, I believe, in the country for safeties.
He might be in that Thorpe conversation is where he's
He absolutely is.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. I would actually almost put him for the Thorpe Award. I believe I went with Mansour Delane instead with him, too. But, I mean, you have 2 guys in a Thorpe Award conversation in this game, too, with Leonard Moore and Bishop Fitzgerald right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but you're right. The corners for USC have been more of an issue.
That has been the issue, and the pass rush is not good enough to consistently disrupt quarterbacks to help those guys out. So I still think we find out in this game if USC is still one-dimensional. Because that's been the problem in recent years is they've just been all offense and no defense, and they find themselves in shootouts every week, right? That was really what happened against Illinois. They got a lead, and they just couldn't hold it. So I think that's really going to be a big thing is Notre Dame's got every opportunity, run and pass, to score another zillion points like they've been doing lately in their last 4.
I have USC's offense in this game. I'm looking at How will Notre Dame handle Makai Lemon right now? Makai Lemon, we're going to get to our awards on Friday's episode. He is my pick for the Biletnikoff Award right now. I think this guy has been the best receiver in college football. 92.6 receiving grade, best in the country. Second most receiving yards in the country, most in the Power 4. Second most yards after the catch in the country. Second in forced missed tackles in the country as well. Only 39% of Makai Lemon's snaps this year have come out wide. He's a guy who wins the majority of the time from the slot, which is going to be critical in this game against Notre Dame. Notre Dame has the best cornerback in college football this year in Leonard Moore. He leads the Power 4 with a 90.3 coverage grade, but Leonard Moore plays on the outside, and he'll have his hands full on the outside against Jacoby Lane, the other USC star receiver. The Fighting Irish have had much more difficulties in slot coverage this year. Their starting slot corner, Devontae Smith, has only played in 3 games this year due to a right calf injury, and he's questionable for this Saturday too. Dallas Golden and Carson Hobbs have been filling in for him in slot coverage. They each have sub-55 coverage grades this year as well. So if Devontae Smith is once again out this week for Notre Dame, Makai Lemon could have a field day in the slot against the Fighting Irish.
That's the big thing is I don't think, now Chris Ash could come out and surprise us, but I don't know if he wants to really mess around with the structural integrity of his defense. I don't think Leonard Moore is going to get out there and just shadow Makai Lemon. I think if he was going to do that, he would take kind of the old the Belichick approach and go, okay, let me lock up Leonard Moore and Jacoby Lane, because he could do that one-on-one, and then just tilt the rest of the defense over, especially in zone coverage, towards Makai Lemon. But no, I mean, there's a chance that he could have just a huge day, right? I mean, when you talk about the different alignments, and I think the guys to worry about, I've talked about this too, are Lemon and the tight ends. The 2 tight ends, Lake McCree and Walker Lyons in the slot, they've been really darn good, especially with the RPO game and attacking down the seams. So I do think that is an issue for this Notre Dame defense. I'm finding their exact team coverage grade from the slot right now. Just going through 130 things right now. But that is going to be the biggest mismatch. And when your biggest mismatch is obviously the other team's best player, you're going to have an issue there.
Yeah. All right, Dalton, ultimately, what could be a huge, huge game, what is going to be a huge game for both teams' playoff hopes? Who's going to win between Notre Dame and USC?
Just found it now for both of these teams. You ready? Notre Dame, 125th in the country in slot coverage grade. 120. That's the weak spot right there. That's where you got to go.
And the best slot receiver in the country is
against the best slot receiver in the country. That's where you got to go right there. USC, corners as a unit. I was talking about that before. 7th worst coverage grade in the country this year. I think this game's going to be high flying. I think both teams have opportunities to really dominate with their offense. I do wonder, because we did get the big performance out of the 3rd string walk-on running back King Miller. We're not going to see Waymon Jordan in this game. His ankle injury is going to keep him out a month. We're not going to see Eli Sanders for the rest of the season. So now it's really King Miller's backfield. He was great against Michigan last week, but he's going to have to be great again, I think, in balancing this thing out for USC. I've got Notre Dame here, I think, as the home team. And I have more faith, even if they don't shut down USC, because you're not ever really going to shut down this team. I think Notre Dame can get enough stops. I have more faith in them to do that. Man, USC's defense, I don't trust it yet. This is the game where they got to make me trust them. I'm going to go Notre Dame 41, USC 34.
Really good shout out in the chat. I just looked it up too. From Campbell Sports Incorporated, Marcus Freeman did come out and say that Leonard Moore playing in the slot against Makai Lemon is an option for Notre Dame this week.
See, now we're having fun. Now we're having fun, because I wasn't sure if they would do Freeman and Chris Ashwood, but it might be.
Because you got to worry about Jacoby Lane, too, on the outside.
You do, but maybe you can trust Christian Gray enough with that. And how does – I mean, it's really going to be a thing. I mean, it's going to be fascinating with this USC team and going against this offense. What is your man-zone balance? When you go man, what are your matchups? And then just if we even get to see it a handful of times,
yeah,
can we get Lemon versus Moore?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if we get that at all, That's like the matchup of the day.
That might be the best corner in the country against the best receiver in the country right now.
Honestly, I mean, as long as if they're not playing Ohio State at some point again, yeah. I mean, that's really what you're looking at there. I mean, so if that's on the table, that's going to be something to watch. And if Notre Dame's going to get gutsy and go man coverage, and they're going to put Gray on Lane, and then Moore on Lemon, and you still got two good tight ends to worry about. Yep. I'm telling you, these tight ends make plays for USC. You're gonna get just a barn burner of a game. It's gonna be awesome.
God, I hope we get that. Man, Leonard Moore against Mekhi Lemon. And if Leonard Moore has a great game in the slot against Mekhi Lemon, that just shows how elite of a player he is. Like playing out of position in the nickel and still playing like that against Mekhi Lemon, that'd be unbelievable.
The only other thing I would worry about is when you do that, because it's all about the structure of your defense, right? If you do that, are you giving away, no matter what you're doing anywhere else, that, okay, we're in man coverage.
Yeah.
And then if you do it too consistently, then does Lincoln Riley just start drawing things up elsewhere against the man coverage as opposed to attacking Lemon, more with Lemon one-on-one? Is that the smartest move? Or so it's a thing, it's like you wonder, it's not just about doing it, it's about doing it in the right moments, in the right sequences. If that's actually a thing that happens, we're going to have a million games on, but I will be just glued to this game to see where it goes from there, because the sequence of play calling between these two coaching staffs will be outstanding.
Great shout out in the chat by Campbell Sports Incorporated right there, because that's going to be a huge matchup if Leonard Moore does play a lot more in the slot than he's done, because again, he's only really an outside corner for Notre Dame, but in this game against that receiver, Mekhi Lemon in the slot, you might need your best corner to play in the slot against that guy. So you had Notre Dame winning against USC, right?
41-34, Fighting Irish.
I have it 34-31, Fighting Irish in this game. I do think Jaden Mayava, who has been one of the best quarterbacks in college football absolutely this year, and Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane, they're going to give it their best shot against Notre Dame in what could be a shootout in this game. But I think Notre Dame, with a balanced offense, with those, obviously all the receivers they have, CJ Carr is playing outstanding football right now, and of course, probably the best backfield in college football with Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price right now. That balanced offense against an inconsistent at best USC defense this year, that'll keep the Fighting Irish's playoff hopes alive in this one, and really sets up Notre Dame beautifully the rest of the year, since they do not play another ranked team as of right now for the rest of the season. So I have Notre Dame 34-31 over USC. All right, next up in our preview is number 16 Missouri at Auburn, 7:45 p.m. Eastern Time on the SEC Network. The storyline for me is, okay, how do both teams respond to heartbreaking losses this past weekend? Missouri suffered its first loss of the year against 8th-ranked Alabama this past weekend, losing 27-24 at home. Auburn, meanwhile, also lost at home. They blew a 10-point lead to their rival in Georgia, and they lost 20-10, and a few controversial calls went in Georgia's favor in that game too. It was Auburn's third straight loss of the season so far, and we saw, Dalton, one massive job open up in Penn State. There's a lot of talk right now around Hugh Freeze at Auburn. He needs desperately to get a big victory this week against a top 20 team in Missouri.
Well, it's another case where you feel like, boy, you already have 3 losses. And, I mean, if nothing else, your back is squarely against the wall. You know what I do worry about? I worry about with Auburn right now, with the 3 straight losses and the way all 3 of them have gone, is really the psyche of this team. Did you see there is a report that one of their star running backs, Damari Alston, has left the program?
Yep.
And really due to the fact that
he's a captain of the team too.
Right. And due to the fact that, and I've talked about this for a few weeks, that there were weeks, especially their first 2 losses, where they kind of chose not to run the football when they probably should have. It's not a great look if you have a team captain and one of your 2 big running backs leaving the program in the middle of the season after 3 losses. So I worry a bit about where this team is at right now mentally, because they had a lot higher expectations. Obviously, Jackson Arnold has struggled. Their secondary has struggled. They have the 2nd lowest coverage grade in the country, only ahead of Air Force. It's been a battle. It's a battle right now for Auburn to get back up off the mat, and they've had repeated. The officiating, I know they're gonna be hot over that for a while in Auburn, but they have played very well. I still think they're better talent-wise than that 3-3 record would show, but you have to finish games, and you got to come through in big moments.
No, a lot of controversial calls in the Georgia game, obviously, and also the Oklahoma game a couple weeks ago, too. So, yeah, I'm sure Auburn fans have felt a little bit robbed this year, but, yeah, that's not a great sign when your senior running back and one of your team captains in Damari Alston was dismissed this past week by Hugh Freeze. He said Damari Alston fell short of the expectations and standards set by the program. That's never a great sign when one of your captains gets dismissed by the program. That's never great for Auburn right there at Dalton. But you have the Missouri offense in this game, who has an incredible run game with Ahmad Hardy, and also a quarterback in Bo Pabila, who was having a great start to his season, but he really kind of had a bad game this past week against Alabama.
Yeah, and honestly, I think these two teams are extremely similar. I think so far this year, Missouri's been a better version of that. But when I say they're similar, they both have goals of being the more physical team, running the football with great backs. And Missouri obviously has two of them in Ahmad Hardy and Jamal Roberts. And Bo Pabila, the quarterback, can help out in the option game and add something with his legs. But what you have is two teams that want to avoid drop-back situations. And Bo Pabila got off to a really hot start in the team's first two games. He was really good in week 2 against Kansas, but the last 4 games, it's kind of gone back to the concerning part of, okay, even when you used to talk about Bo Pabila possibly eventually being the starter at Penn State, he's good in the Wildcat role, he's good with play action, he adds to the run game. Can he drop back and throw the football? And the problem is over the last 4 games, that's not been great. That was really the difference against Alabama, is that when he was put in those spots, he just couldn't get it done. The 2 big interceptions were a problem. Yes, some miscommunication, but 58.8 passing grade in the last 4 games, 1 big-time throw, 5 turnover-worthy plays, and not really attacking down the field too often. What I see with Pabula is that he gets locked in. He's kind of a one-and-run quarterback right now. He's gonna lock in on his first read. If that's there, he's probably gonna make a solid throw. If it's not, he's gonna turn his eyes down to the pressure and try to make a play. I don't see a whole lot of process here from Bo of getting to his second and third read and staying calm and cool in the pocket. That's going to be it's going to come up in this game. Look, Auburn's really struggled in coverage. Their secondary is not as good as we thought it would be. They've got a terrific run defense. If they have a chance to slow down Missouri's rushing offense in this great backfield duo that Missouri has, and they're going to make Bo throw I think the goal for these two teams is exactly the same. Make the other quarterback throw the football. It's that simple. It's yes with Jackson Arnold. That's been the publicized one because he's struggled, but it is like that now with Bo. And I believe, obviously time of possession and their defense was not great in that game against Ty Simpson in Alabama, especially on the back end. But both teams want to avoid obvious passing situations. Missouri is in that category. I think we're already aware of Arnold and everything going on there. But Bo Pabula's got to prove it at some point that he can drop back, even for one drive, a 2-minute drill, something that he can drop back, throw the ball 8 times in a row, and get it done successfully and get this team in the end zone.
Yeah, I have the run game for Auburn against Missouri's run defense. It's really, like you mentioned before, it's just really Jackson Arnold has failed to live up to the hype right now as Auburn's quarterback. He's a 5-star, of course, coming out of high school. Wasn't great last year at Oklahoma with only a 57.7 passing grade, but a lot of people, including us, Dalton, said, hey, he's got a really good excuse for why he struggled last year. Oklahoma's supporting cast around him was abysmal last year with all the injuries along their offensive line. In that receiving core is one of the worst supporting casts in college football. So when Jackson Arnold transferred to Auburn, plenty of people, again, including us, were very excited by that, saying, okay, former 5-star recruit, wasn't set up to succeed at Oklahoma, but now at Auburn with one of the best receiving cores in the country and our top 10 offensive line in the country too in both of our rankings, that he could be a lot better. But he hasn't so far. Only a 56.5 passing grade this year, 133rd among all quarterbacks in the country. 2 big-time throws for Jackson Arnold and 7 turnover-worthy plays this year for Jackson Arnold. He's only earned a 60 passing grade twice this year, and that was in Auburn's 2 wins over Ball State and South Alabama. He's had a below a 60 passing grade in every single one of Auburn's games against a Power 4 opponent this year. Auburn's only way to have an efficient offense right now is by relying on its ground game, which is really the only way Jackson Arnold is contributing to this offense right now because he is a good runner at quarterback. The Tigers average .127 EPA per run. That's 23rd in the country. Mentioned before, Damari Alston, their senior running back, one of their captains. He was dismissed from the program. You still have Jackson Arnold. You still have Jeremiah Cobb in that backfield too. But Missouri has a 92.9 run defense grade right now. That is 4th among all schools in the country. And the school that is 3rd in the country in run defense grade is Georgia, who held Auburn to 40 total yards in the second half this past weekend. If Missouri does the same thing and shuts down that Auburn ground game like Georgia did in the second half, the Auburn Tigers, I should say, are in a lot of trouble in this game.
3 guys I look at when it comes to the option game and everything Auburn can run if they choose to on offense, and the design quarterback runs with Arnold. 3 guys. 1, Josiah Trotter, their middle linebacker, 91 run defense grade, 7th best among all linebackers in the country. And then the 2 safeties right behind it that do so much for this team, Dalen Carnell and Jalen Catalon. I think those 3 guys in the middle of that defense are a huge reason this Missouri run defense is so good. There were cracks in it last week against Jam Miller in Alabama, but there wasn't too many explosive runs and backbreakers. So I think this Missouri run defense, again, I really believe these 2 teams, when you look at just kind of the blueprint of how they want to win, it's exactly the same. Missouri's just got it done a little bit more often. And then funky thing, we're in week 8. It's Missouri's first road game too now.
Wow.
I mean, remember, they've played all 6, their first 6 games.
That's crazy.
First 6 games, they played all at home. So got through it 5-1, tough loss to Alabama. But that's the other thing with Bo Prabula too. Got to go on the road and get in this Auburn environment that it'll be hostile. I don't know toward which side it will be hostile to, but it will be hostile. And the other question I'm going to pose here, because I know this is getting asked also. Let's just throw the scenario out there. Auburn's season's on the line. They already have 3 losses. They're down 10-0 in halftime. Do we have any thought about Ashton Daniels just to do it? He's sitting there, Stanford transfer, came in, and I mean, he can do athletically a lot of the same things Arnold can do. If they're not getting it done as a passer,
his experience at least a little bit too,
and he's got starting experience.
I know he's the backup, but I mean, Deuce Knight's a 5-star freshman too. Maybe Hugh Freeze trying to say, hey,
is that a spot you would put Deuce in though, right there with your season on the line? That's the only thing is I think he would think it'd be a little unfair to the kid.
For a coach maybe on the hot seat right now, saying, hey, this is the future of the program. Let me develop this kid. That might be an option.
Pull the Billy Napier and go with Lagway and do it that way.
That might be an option too.
It's a thought. I just wonder if we get about to a halftime in this game, and if they're down,
Daniels would be next. It would not be Deuce.
If they're down 13-3 and they can't throw the football, we got to do something. I think we got to do something to save our season, because at 3-4 we're shot.
Yep.
It's a thought, but no, I think 2 teams with very similar goals. Get out there and run the ball and see where it goes from there.
2 teams that are extremely similar, Dalton. 2 teams that have quarterbacks that have struggled as of late. Bo Prabula, obviously, this past weekend really struggled, and Arnold has struggled really all year. 2 teams that have really good ground games. 2 teams that have outstanding run defenses too, and also 2 teams, Dalton, that are named the Tigers in Missouri and Auburn. Who's going to win? Which Tiger will win on Saturday night?
I was going to say, it's one of those cases I can just pick the Tigers and not be wrong. Wow. Yes, 2 teams that are very similar, but I think so far Missouri has shown, as long as they can get over it being the first road game and Bo's not too nervous out there in a loud environment, I think Missouri is the better version of that blueprint. They've shown that. I think Ahmad Hardy and this offensive line can really get after it in the run game. I have it 20-17 Missouri. I think you get a low-scoring defensive game between 2 teams that struggle to throw the football. I'm a little more sure of this than I was when I wrote this down last night, because of this Damari Alston leaving the program, and maybe that's just a hint into the vibe that we have with Auburn right now. It's still going to be tough. I still think Auburn's defense has played well enough to win all of these games. They really have. I mean, they've been outstanding in these games. So their run defense, Keldrick Falk in their front 7 is going to keep them in it. I think Missouri just breaks through enough. And the struggles in the Auburn passing game, to me, are a bit worse than the struggles in the Missouri passing game. Although the ones for Missouri are there, and it's going to most likely come up in future weeks that we talk about them as well.
I have it. You had it 20-17 Missouri. I have it 21-17 Missouri in this one. I think this game could come down to who runs the ball better against 2 outstanding run defenses. But if that's going to be the storyline of the game, I'll give the advantage to the current Doak Walker Award favorite right now in Ahmad Hardy to get it done against Auburn. And I trust Bo Prabula a little bit more than Jackson Arnold. Yes, it wasn't pretty for Bo Prabula this past week, but Arnold has struggled mightily all year. Bo, I still think, is a pretty solid quarterback for Missouri right now.
And not only who runs it better and more efficiently, who just chooses to stay on it.
Yeah.
Because this has been a question. At no point, even last week, until they really had to throw it every play down 7 2-minute drill, Missouri was sticking with it. They're going to stick with it now. They are not going to get away from the foundation. We've seen full games when Auburn has gone, nope, we don't have the run game. Not today. We're not going to do it, right? And I'm like, no, you kind of need to stick with it. I think Missouri's also more likely in times of adversity to go, this is what we do. That's what they did against South Carolina to win a relatively close game. I think that's what they would do in this game.
Yep. So out of the Battle of the Tigers, we're both taking Missouri to beat Auburn in this one and deliver another loss to the Auburn Tigers this year. All right, final one, and it is a massive one in this preview, is number 23 Utah at number 15 BYU, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. This is one of the biggest holy wars ever. Utah and BYU are obviously bitter enemies who have met 97 times in a rivalry known as the Holy War. Bragging rights alone in this game make it must-see TV, but this Saturday's matchup is the biggest game in a long time between these two programs. It's the first time in 16 years that both the Utes and the Cougars are currently ranked in the top 25 when they meet. This game also could establish who the real top contender is to Texas Tech right now in the Big 12. BYU is 6-0 on the year, the only other undefeated team in the conference other than Texas Tech. Utah is 5-1 on the year and currently has the second best odds to win the Big 12 right now at plus 600, according to DraftKings Sportsbook. So again, first time since 2009 that both BYU and Utah are ranked when they play each other. And also this game could determine who is the biggest threat to Texas Tech in the Big 12 right now.
I mean, this is as big as it gets in this rivalry, man, and especially when you've got the added dimension of Devin Dampier coming in as the transfer from New Mexico and outside of the Texas Tech game playing very well, and Bear Bachmeier, the true freshman, starting 6-0. I don't care who it is or what your team looks like. You start 6-0 with a true freshman quarterback, you're doing something right. You've got two well-rounded teams, two teams that are pretty darn good in the trenches, two teams that have a lot of playmakers throughout their team, and they're both really physical, and they both really want to run the football, right? That's going to be the fun part. You always get a super physical game between these two teams. You got it last year again for sure with BYU pulling it out last second. I would expect every bit of the rivalry factor to come out in this game. This is going to be an all-out war. It really is.
Yeah, I think it's the trenches is going to be the critical in this game, Dalton. You have Utah in this game with an elite offensive line. What should we know when the Utes have the ball?
So I think if there is one distinct advantage that Utah does have, yes, we talk so much about their offensive line, usually in the context of run blocking, but they have been outstanding when it comes to pass protection this year. They have the fourth best pass blocking grade. They have the second best pressure rate allowed. Dampier gets hit and sacked less than anybody in the country. And if I was going to nitpick one actual, because we talk about BYU and go, listen, they don't have a ton of weaknesses. There might be one with the lack of pass rush, right? Even last year, it wasn't great, but at least they had Tyler Batty off the edge, and he had something. BYU is not a great pass rushing team this season. Actually, their two leaders in pressures are linebackers Jack Kelly and Isaiah Glasker. So when you look at this team, they're very good in coverage, obviously very good in run defense, but if the first step is getting Utah into obvious passing situations, because you don't want Spencer Fano and those guys leaning on you and getting into the depth of the run game and everything Jason Beck can do as the offensive coordinator. The second step is you have to find a way to bring Devin Dampier down, and he's only been sacked, I think it's 3 times this year, 2 or 3 times this year, and we've charged them all to him. BYU is 79th in the country in pass rush grade, and over the last few weeks that's gotten even worse. So I think you look at it and go, they have to find a way to manufacture pressure on Dampier in passing situations. And their other problem is the star linebacker Jack Kelly, who is leading them in pressures and who often would play kind of that spy role against mobile quarterbacks. We're not sure if he's going to play in this game. He's had a shoulder injury. He practiced last week and then sat out the Arizona game. Obviously, Isaiah Glasker plays a role at linebacker as well. I think a huge battle in this game, in the run game and in the passing game, is these BYU linebackers, just in general, against the offensive line and against Devin Dampier. And if they don't have Jack Kelly, that does get tough because Jack Kelly's a guy who gets off the edge and rushes the passer as well from there. Those are the guys I'm looking at that have to play their A game for BYU. They do it a lot. You've got Glasgow, you've got Kelly, you've got Siale Acera, who played very well last week against Arizona, but they need to be on their A-plus game if they're going to win this, and especially the other two if Kelly is out.
It's all about the trenches on my side of the ball, too. When BYU has the ball, BYU's offensive line against Utah's defensive line is what I'm looking at in this game. The holy war will be won in the trenches. BYU's offense is centered around its ability to run the football right now. The Cougars run the ball at the second highest rate in the Power 4, only behind West Virginia right now at about 57%. Running back LJ Martin has been outstanding for the Cougars this year. He's 5th in the nation with 448 yards after contact, and BYU as a team is 9th in the nation in run blocking grade this year. And Barrett Bachmeier can run the ball too at quarterback. So you have a mobile quarterback, an outstanding running back, and an outstanding offensive line in terms of run blocking this year. That could be an issue for Utah in this one. Utah right now is the 7th worst team in the Power 4 in terms of yards after contact per attempt allowed at 3.4. But where the Utes have won is with their pass rush. Utah currently has the 3rd best pressure rate in all of college football this year at 46%. But I will say BYU, that offensive line is great in run blocking. It's very good in pass blocking too. Right now, BYU is 21st in the country in pressure rate allowed at about 26%. But if Utah does get pressure on quarterback Bear Bachmeier in this game, they could have a huge advantage because Bear Bachmeier has a 47.6 passing grade under pressure this year. It's only 88th among all quarterbacks in the country, and Utah runs man coverage at the highest rate in all of college football at about 59% this year. Bear Bachmeier must be prepared to make tight window throws against man coverage under duress in this game. We'll see if the true freshman can do it.
The man coverage is a big thing, and the name to know for that Utah pass rush, John Henry Daly, 91.8 pass rush grade, 28 pressures, 9 sacks, at least 1 sack in every game this year, Max. John Henry Daly, he's all-out effort all the time, and he's going to have to chase down Bear Bachmeier on the move, too, because Bachmeier has been excellent under pressure, I think, especially in the last couple of games when they've been trailing against Colorado and against Arizona. He has just made plays outside the pocket. So you have to finish Bear Bachmeier in the same way that you have to get Devin Dampier on the ground. You have to get Bachmeier on the ground before he can make plays with his legs. And then the other guys I want to bring up here also are the linebackers too for Utah. They're going to be key against BYU's run game and bringing down LJ Martin, Lander Barton, and Jonathan Hall. Those are the two big guys you're looking for. I think this is a game where on both sides you're looking at linebackers that need to play extremely well for their teams to win. You got look these two teams, they're going to get 4 and 5 yard runs on you. It's going to happen, right? You're not going to shut them down. Neither of these teams is going to walk out here and rush for only 30 yards. That's not going to be a thing. You got to prevent those big 15s and 20s and 60-yard runs that either of them can get on you. Linebackers are going to be massive on both sides in this game. On one side, it's Glasgow and Acera and maybe Kelly. On the other side, it's Barton and Hall who need to have huge games. Whoever wins that battle, those are the guys I'm looking at, could win this game.
Daly also transferred from BYU to Utah. Someone shout out in the chat too.
Well, of course he did. I mean, of course.
Well, there we go.
Well, of course. Does that mean he makes a winning play in this game?
Maybe.
Man, oh man.
Maybe.
I mean, it is.
Great shout out by the chat by Travis Horlocker, by the way.
This is going to be. I just think, again, the word in this game is physical. You're going to get two teams that have a lot of the same goals and two quarterbacks that, look, they're both really good athletes, and they're going to have to make plays under pressure.
Cade Kirshner in the chat saying, BYU tickets normally go for $60 to $90. This week they're going for $400. He says the biggest day of the year in the state of Utah right now.
I had somebody threw a comment at me on Twitter saying this is the biggest holy war since 2008. That's what they told me.
Yeah,
or 09.
09 was the last ranked one they had.
Yeah. So I mean, it just, and the implications when you look forward. I mean, look, BYU's in a big stretch right now. When you talk, I think, is it next week or the week after they play Iowa State? I mean, they're in a stretch right now that could define their season. If BYU look, Comeback win on Colorado, cool. Young quarterback, good stuff. Comeback win against Arizona on the road, great. 2 great road wins, love that. Now you get to come back home with momentum undefeated. But next 3, look at the rest of this for BYU. They're going to earn it if they're getting to the Big 12 title game. Utah, Iowa State, Texas Tech, TCU, Cincinnati.
Wow.
There's the road right there.
We're going to preview every game with theirs this year.
Most likely, yeah. I mean, and then you look at Utah. Little easier. Colorado next week, Cincinnati, Baylor. I mean, obviously Cincinnati's live, but Utah's trying to avoid a second loss now too. I don't know if they'll get in the Big 12 title game. I know we had a bunch of 2-loss teams last year, but I don't know if you're going to get a bunch of them this year. Somebody might come out with 1 loss. So you look at the road that BYU has and the way they could set themselves up for this stretch. And Utah, if they can come out of this with the win and still just a 1 loss, you start to feel good about them down the stretch as well. This is as big a game as we have in the Big 12 this season.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Dalton, what is the biggest holy war in over a decade and a half? Who will win between Utah and BYU?
I'm so scared of this pick. I really am.
Yeah,
because it's just, this is one of those games where you just, no matter what you pick, there's going to be nonsense, right? I'm scared. I'm scared of this pick because I'm really scared of picking the road team here going into Provo. And look, BYU, they went into Utah last year and got the win, right? I'm going with it. I'm going with the Utes 23-20. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be physical. It is going to be an absolute fist fight all the way to the end. But I do think Devin Dampier is the guy that makes enough plays. If Jack Kelly is out, I think that's a big factor. I also think this is Bear Bachmeier has gotten through some big moments, right? At Colorado, at Arizona, love a true freshman quarterback starting 6-0. This is as big as it gets right here when you talk about being in this program and needing to come through. I think Kyle Whittingham in this defense and then Devin Dampier on the offensive side, they make enough plays. BYU's lack of pass rush is the one glaring thing in this game on both sides that concerns me big time. But both quarterbacks are going to have to be safe with the football, too, to win this game. I'm going to take Utah by a field goal.
I have Utah once again. I feel like I've done so many 1-point marches in this episode because of how awesome the slate is, and I just don't know who's going to win so many of these games. Doing it once again here, I have Utah beating BYU 24-23. This version of the Holy War should live up to the hype and then some, and what could be and what should be a battle in the trenches. I think Utah comes out on top at home and escapes by the slimmest of margins. So I have Utah winning this game 24-23. Over BYU. All right, Dalton. Now my favorite part of the show. Underdogs of the week. Upset of the week. We're doing it right now. You hit yours this past week. Eli's booing us back there because Eli's now in dead last. Eli 275. You have 324. I have 784 points this year. So just a reminder to people, we're picking an upset. And whatever their money line is, if you get it right, you get that added to your point total. So if they're plus 200 and you hit it, the 200 points get added to your total. And also a reminder to you guys, throw your upsets in the chat right now. Every single upset that is in that chat, we will be adding it to our No Sunday Show parlay. Last week, the parlay would have won $250,000 on a $2 bet. Let's make it bigger this week. We're going to hit that parlay at one point in this season. We're going to hit that parlay, I promise you. So throw your upsets in the chat right now because we will be adding it to our massive monster parlay this week. Dalton, I'll go first because I am in the lead right now.
I think there was, other than just the standings, I think there was another reason Eli was booing us there because the upset pick that he has, we're both going against it. He's going against the grain here. I almost want to see, I just want to make sure that's why he was booing us. Can we actually let him go first?
Yeah, go ahead, Eli.
Let's let him go first, coming fresh off this last preview.
Well, that's not why I was booing you. I was booing you just because I like to boo Max, but
that makes sense actually.
For what reason? You're just booing for nothing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going with BYU over Utah in the Holy War. I like it at 130. I think it's a toss-up game, kind of like what you guys were talking about. It's kind of strength on strength. I think both teams are really good, and I think it'll be the toss-up. So give me the home dog.
Home dog, Lavelle Edwards.
142 actually.
Lavelle Edwards Stadium.
Oh, even better.
There you go for you.
Boy, oh boy, I get it. Home dogs are always live, especially in those rivalry games. It's going to be. We're all going to be riding the seat of our pants with that game. It's going to be, they call it the Holy War for a reason, and it is going to be a war. Yep. Absolutely. I get it, Eli. I mean, that's just, we got a bunch of coin flips on this. There's probably 6 or 7 you could have taken here that are just, I'd be like, 50-50, go for it. But no, I get it with that one. That's going to be some late night fun there.
Yeah, anyone in the chat, again, a reminder to throw your upset picks in the chat right now. I'll go with mine, and if you're going to be betting the parlay, you better get it in today because my game is tonight. I am betting on Tuesday night college football this week. I have Arkansas State plus 210 over South Alabama right now. South Alabama, I believe, is 7.5-point favorites in this game. South Alabama is 1-5 to start their season so far. I know Arkansas State is 2-4, but I just don't understand how South Alabama could be 7.5-point favorites over any really team in the country this year. Their only win was over an FCS team in Morgan State this year, and they've lost their next 5 games after that too. So I get it. They played close against Troy, an overtime loss to Troy, but Arkansas State 2-4, coming off a win over Texas State, who's a pretty good team actually in that Sun Belt Conference. So I think tonight's game, Arkansas State, who is plus 210 right now, I think that is the line that I'm looking at right now. So Tuesday night, Sun Belt action, but I like Arkansas State tonight.
I get it. And let's not forget, it was only, about a month ago that they took Iowa State to the wire, too. Arkansas State might be a little bit better than that 2-4 record. We'll see if Jalen Raynor can go down there and get a win at South Alabama. Obviously, always tough to get road wins, especially on Tuesday night football. Gotta love that. Gives us something to watch tonight, right? Obviously, there's football now every day of the week. So, no, I think that's a fun one. That is one, actually, I was very, very close to going with, and I don't even know why I hesitated on it. I just did it. Sometimes I'm just like, I don't know, there's something telling me not to, but that was honestly my second choice that I almost went with. But, Max, I'm going to stay in the midweek action. I've got a Wednesday game, all right? I hit one upset picking the Bearcats earlier this season of Cincinnati. Now I'm going down to the Bearcats of Sam Houston State. Tomorrow night, they are hosting UTEP, the Miners, all right? Wednesday night football, Conference USA action. Sam Houston State, and this might be gutsy, they're one of 3 teams in the FBS that does not have a win. Oregon State, UMass, Sam Houston State. UTEP's got a lot of problems, really hard time scoring. Quarterback controversy. It looks like they've benched Malachi Nelson now and gone back to Skylar Locklear, who played for them last year. Really struggling to find any points. Sam Houston State at home. I believe it's a 2.5 or 3-point underdog. Give me the Bearcats with a K to get their first win of the year, to get out of that winless group. I'm going to take it on a Wednesday night, plus 120.
So we will know if the upset parlay hits tonight and tomorrow night. So before even Thursday, 2 of our 3 picks.
Well, we have 3 days to predetermine blaming Eli for blowing
ruining
it. That's
it,
what's going to happen. Yeah.
So I have Tuesday night game, Arkansas State over South Alabama. You have a Wednesday night game, Sam Houston State over UTEP. Eli has a Saturday game.
Think about this. Look at the week we're about to have. Tonight we get maybe your upset.
Yep.
Tomorrow we get mine. Thursday, Bengals Steelers right here in Cincinnati.
True.
Friday, Louisville Miami.
And Nebraska Minnesota that night too.
Nebraska. Oh, that's on the Friday too?
Yeah.
Good game.
Yep.
Because I know you almost went with that too.
I really almost had that too. It's Minnesota.
If they get Darius Taylor going, you're going to regret not picking it.
It's true.
And then the rest of these games on Saturday. It's every day. Football's every day now. We've hit that time of year.
So one last chance for the chats is throw in their upsets of the week. I'll go over our parlay, the 3 of our parlay right now. It's plus 1550, so $10 wins $165 basically this week.
I don't hate that. I can say we've had bigger ones. We went a little safer this week. I think, especially me. I wanted to keep the momentum going. And like I said, something about Bearcats. I got one Bearcat win earlier this year. I'm going to get another one.
All right, we have a lot of upsets in the chat right now. I'll get to a few of them right now. So we have R3, obviously. Washington over Michigan. We got earlier in the show was one of them. Plus 180.
I have that. We're in.
Old Dominion over James Madison at plus 100. I don't hate that.
It's interesting because is Old Dominion the road team there? I don't remember. But
no, they are the road team.
Old Dominion took a beating last week against Marshall. Maybe the upset.
They've had a good year though.
Maybe the upset of the week was it 41-7? I think it was. That they got beat by Marshall. That was wild stuff because Old Dominion was pretty high and they were like a dark horse playoff team. Mm-hmm. That some of the rankings, the metrics were liking.
Yeah, Old Dominion, UConn over Boston College, another upset someone had. Don't hate that. BC's struggling.
I couldn't pick UConn again. I couldn't do it.
Over an ACC team, too. You couldn't do it again.
I couldn't do it again. They hurt me once.
USC over Notre Dame, someone threw in there, plus 260.
Reasonable.
We got Baylor over TCU, plus 120.
Thought about that one. That's a game that just feels like another coin flip. Yeah.
And then Andrew Harbaugh, our guy in the chat, threw UTSA over North Texas. North Texas losing two in a row.
Thought about that too. UTSA is starting to figure it out with Owen McCown on offense, and that North Texas defense might have kind of sort of shown who they were last week. Plus, it's an in-state rivalry. That's another one I took a look at because Owen McCown and those guys are getting the offense going.
So unless anyone else in the chat is throwing in any, I don't see any. I'll place that parlay right now. That is $10. Wins $41,554.
Right,
Not quite the $250,000 that we would have had last week, but I think I get it though. Like, let's calm down a little bit. Let's hit singles and doubles. A $40,000 single.
The worst part is we broke our rule because remember last week it was like, oh, they picked Thursday and Friday games that didn't hit, and now we're out here on Tuesdays and Wednesdays acting like degenerates here. I'm going to be prepping for the NFL show tomorrow, watching Arkansas State and South Alabama. Yeah.
Listen. We swung for the fences last week, going for $250,000 on a $2 bet. I think hit a single this week, make $40,000 on a $10 bet. I think that's okay.
It's a good single.
I'll take that. Yeah,
I would hit a single. $40,000, sure. Why not? How many is it? 8? Are we doing
9 picks?
9, okay.
Which I believe we had like 9 last week, but some of those 9 were like plus 300, plus 400. So.
Oh yeah, wasn't Oklahoma State mixed in there?
Oklahoma State was thrown in there. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, all right. So we're starting to tighten. We're starting to tighten the ship a little bit. We'll be all right, Chad.
I appreciate you guys. This is fantastic. All right, got our upset picks in the chat this week. $40,000. We're all winning $40,000 this week. Can't probably retire. Still have to do the show on Sunday, unfortunately, even if we hit the parlay. But it would be a very nice wake up on Sunday if we hit this parlay too. So place that parlay right now. I'll tweet it out later on too on my Twitter at CFBMaxShot if you want to follow that parlay too. Bet it today though. Bet it today because one of my games, my game is tonight. Dalton's game is tomorrow night too. So get those picks in today because one of those games is happening tonight with South Alabama and Arkansas State. But appreciate you guys for watching once again. Want to remind you guys, our next show actually won't be the Sunday show. Our next show will be on Friday. We're going to be going over our mid-season All-American team and also giving out mid-season awards as well. So can't wait to do that on Friday live on this channel as well. And of course, the Sunday show breaking down all of these massive games as well. For producers back there and Tyler and Eli, for Dalton Wasserman, I'm Max Chadwick. We'll see you guys on Friday with our mid-season All-American team and our mid-season awards.